you might not realize this, but this is one of the few games they get to play without being on high ping. So both of them from the Asiatic region. So finally, they do not have to play on that 100 plus ping from each side. So no, doing good. I'm excited to see what our Asian Chads can do today. But this first match in front of us, we had Frisian Marshes a lot yesterday. It seems to be a comfort pick for a lot of people. And JD versus Ottomans, I feel like we've seen both of these civilizations quite a lot on this map.
I agree. Both do pretty well with just the abundance of food on this map. I think really lends to their playstyles really well, especially for JD. I feel like that just fits really, really well because I feel like one thing that kind of can hinder JD and why we see pro scouts so often from French and JD is that the food, you need to have that to sustain the night push, and I think a map like Frisian Marshes kind of solves that issue for you.
And with the whole early game, I think a lot of that dynamic is, what am I supposed to do to stop my opponent from just getting access to all the food? So guys, let's hop on in and see what the first game holds. As we are just jumping right in. Here we see the boys not chopping any wood, not going to get some early docking. Honestly, makes sense. You're up against Ottomans. You don't want to get barracks as Ottomans that can punish you for being that little bit of greedy in the early game as well. And he does open with the barracks as expected. So already getting his spearman out this early on from MeomaikA, he expects CsO to be a little bit greedy.
I think this is a good call, actually, by MeomaikA. I like going for the spear. I think disrupting the gold from CsO is good. The tricky thing is Jeanne d'Arc is difficult to work around. I feel like she could get the gold if he wants. Right now, she's got him on the food. So she's on food right now, but if he can disrupt that gold and come slow it down, you're probably not going to slow the age up down. What you're trying to do is slow down that first knight.
And getting that first knight or stopped is just going to ensure that he doesn't get to be the greedy goose JD he wants to be. Now, we see this with French as well. They usually go for that first knight, trying to just force you to go back to your base. But with 3 spearmen, you already have an answer to being aggressive and being raided afterwards as well. Over those 3 spears, you can also burn down a dock, which is something he luckily doesn't need to be focused on today. And one thing you definitely can do with 3 spearmen is stop gold completely. This is something where you actually have to force a pretty big reaction here. The first spearman and the second one also making their way here now. It does look like the villagers will be pulled back pretty quickly, getting every little bit of mine that they have. And let's see what the gold return is going to be like. If we click on that mine, see if he has gotten enough. But it should be enough. And
Barely
CsO
enough.
is going to be, going to be a happy-ish camper after that.
Gosh, imagine if he'd only gotten 198 right there. Thankfully, though, CsO has enough to age up, so he'll be okay. But those spears, like you said, do shut down the idea of a dock, which is obviously why CsO didn't even go for it in the first place. And they do shut down that gold, so that first knight will be delayed. It is going to be, of course, School of Cavalry coming up.
Now, did you watch any of the games yesterday, Soccerton? And Twitch chat, you guys as well.
I was not able to watch the games yesterday. My little kid had a birthday party, so...
Priorities. Honestly,
Yeah,
you did
yeah.
miss out on the biggest gold denial of 2025. There was a poor little villager that went down carrying his little basket of gold that was needed to age up. So it was already a pretty tough position to be in. But this from MeomaikA definitely pays off already, because now with all those spears, you've got the presence on the map, and we'll see what this looks like afterwards. But those 3 spears is just going to stop any wild ideas and force an archery range out of CsO. And of course, as French, you're obviously going to go into archers eventually, but getting it this early is probably not something CsO wanted. Now, the spearmen already rotating to that second goal to ensure that we do not get any sneaky plays, but also going to the wood line to see if they can snack and stack a spear into a villager's face.
Sultani trade network behind this for MeomaikA, looking for some safe gold of his own. Yeah, those spears very aggressive. I like that he lapped around for the second gold, you know, making sure that this delay is going to be a heavy delay. And that does put CsO in kind of a, I won't say like the back foot necessarily, but he puts you in a very uncomfortable spot. As we see, he's trying to drop down the outpost, trying to secure that gold. He knows he needs the resources for it.
Now, dropping down this outpost might mean that he doesn't need to respond with that archery range, as I mentioned earlier, but already it's 150 wood that is now invested into getting that gold back up and running. 100 for the tower and 50 for another mining camp, which could have been avoided with one spearman just staying out there. MeomaikA, maybe a little bit of a miscalculation here, as he just wanted to ensure that CsO is not being a greedy goose getting the gold at the top. Now those spearmen will be retreating back to safety, as the tower will be quite fiery towards them. And CsO now just going to get the gold that he needs to get that first knight out and force those spears to go back where they belong.
Getting that tower up, that was kind of a sneaky, quick little put up. He needed that. He needed this gold, and now we see he's gathering as we speak. He had the, he's got the wood and he's got food for the bit, so it's not like you need to have a panic attack when you see this come up. You just need to kind of take your breath, take care of it. Having those three all, like you said, commit to the north side instead of leaving one spear back really did kind of give CsO the opening to get back onto the gold vein.
Now, the question is what MeomaikA is going to start doing, because when you get to 161 gold, you want to ask yourself, how am I spending that? And MeomaikA, he's just holding on to it for now. Is this something that we've seen out of Ottomans? And I guess my question is towards you, Socrates, and to Twitch chat, what could be cooking here?
I'm thinking, well, first we got to see what JD's going to do. I think that's the big thing. We do see a barracks being dropped. That is an interesting play. I mean, I keep going for some spears of his own. Maybe he's thinking there's going to be Sipahi coming up, but I don't see any inclination of that just yet. This could be the melee woman at arms, and there's the first knight coming out as well. So CsO looking to get aggressive with this. That barracks has me questioning myself a little bit, going, why spears? And sure enough, there's the first one. So he must be really expecting Sipahi, but knights beat that out.
They do beat it out, but the problem is archers are just so susceptible to Sipahis, and we've seen a lot of armies just fall to sheer numbers of Sipahis, and getting your knights caught out in an awkward position for even half a second. And getting those spears out kind of forces MeomaikA to not be able to go into the instant Sipahi play. This might tell him, like, hey, you're maybe going to be needing some archers instead, especially considering that melee JD is pretty good at dealing with most things coming your way, and we already see CsO following that up with his own archery range, just getting that spearman presence on the field to ensure that when the Sipahis come, he's got an answer, and he doesn't need to use those valuable knights he wants to be disrupting this economy with. So CsO now just keeping this presence here at the goal and ensuring MeomaikA doesn't have access to it for this long. Now the question is just if CsO knows that this is a Sultani trade network age up, because even on this map, we've been seeing a lot of people just go for the normal or berries. So with him having this access to gold, MeomaikA is probably not too worried about this. And if he didn't know, he knows now. The scout just spotted it.
There's enough food on this map, and he has the option of going Anatolian Hills later if he needs to as well. So it's not like he's in a dire spot. That's, I think, why he went for the Sultani Trade Network, knowing that eventually CsO could get pretty aggressive, as it is going to be a 1-1-1 comp for CsO. He's got the first archer on the field with one in the queue. Got two knights, couple spears, building up his forces as he's going, already onto the berries as well. I imagine he'll be reaching out for more and more food and kind of spreading off on the north part of that map as he continues to take map control here. As JD kind of walking around, those spears, prime targets for that melee attack of hers.
Now, JD, she loves a good old fight, especially at this stage of the game. The knights perfectly charging in on that spear, not taking any hits from him, but rather just getting that spear nice and low. But now, CsO behind this, getting all his upgrades he can. He's just doing the thing we usually see from JD, staying in Feudal, making units. MeomaikA, though, this is Ottomans. Ottomans also doesn't mind staying here. But both of these players, we see that they are respecting the fact that their opponent can be aggressive and punish any greed. So neither of these players going out on the water, as we usually see a little dock or two drop down from this side. But these two know, if I make a mistake here, it's just going to snowball from here on out. And I see some people have been asking, why is MeomaikA ahead in villages? Well, those are traders that are actually inside his Sultani trade network, generating gold as time goes on. And he's not going to be popping those out because there's a bunch of knights on the field. You don't want to be taking those risks. The scout getting dangerously low, though.
He goes down, scout. I don't think it's going to get away. Sipahi should be outspeeding. One hit away, and there it goes. But losing Sipahi to do that, and that's some free XP you don't want to give away to CsO for Jeanne d'Arc. I want to point a couple things out, too. First, the micro early from CsO on that spear when he damaged it was really, really good. Unfortunately for him, MeomaikA has the two imams that just immediately healed it back. And secondly, with the traders in the Sultani trade networks, MeomaikA doesn't have just the base 3. I think he's added a couple extra as we've gone on as well. which
Yeah,
you
he's
don't
definitely
always
been making
see.
those.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't always see that, and he's added in 3 more on top of the base 3 that you start with. That's kind of an interesting play because it's going to generate some more passive gold as you go, but you could spend those in other places as well. So you don't always see players go for this, but it is fun to see him. He's now, yeah, we're seeing Vodka pointing out 144 right there.
You can see that in the income per minute. He's happy with this gold income, not putting any other villagers on gold right now. But that's exactly what he did with that early gold. He spent it on getting those extra traders and ensuring now that he can transition into upgrades. The blacksmith upgrades, some of them already coming through. Not one that he's going to be wasting in this case, as he's only using those Sapahis. He doesn't want to get poked by any range damage, and he wants to make sure they hit real hard. But these Sapahis need to be careful. If they are not fast on their feet, those spears are going to give them some good damage. But like you said, he's got the imams. He can take a little bit of damage. The problem is just with these numbers, you don't just risk taking damage, you risk losing quite a bit. And the knight numbers, even though they're still lower than the Spahi ones, you know, it's a knight. This armored horse is not going to be taking any bad trades. Now, it does look like CsO finally feels confident enough to move out onto the dock, and now his second dock coming up there in the north as well. He is looking for food.
Yeah, moving out. This is a good time to do it too, because he's got the Sipahi of MeomaikA in check right now. Those knights are scary enough in their numbers that MeomaikA really can't head out too far without those guys coming right in. As we see an engagement right here, knights taking a charge. Of course, you see they're charging after him, trying to get the chip damage. One of them is pretty weak. They can maybe get a couple more hits. That's a good pull right there, just to have another dodge, just to kind of take some damage, but keep the one alive. At this point for CsO, keeping the knights alive is paramount. Because he can get the heals up with the with JD. He can heal them up, just cannot lose one. As he gets the reinforcements, and the spears will finally back off the remaining Sipahi away.
Now, the spear numbers are not that great here for CsO to handle all of this, especially with those ranged horse archers, the Akinji coming on out too, but JD is loving this fight. We see she is focused down pretty quickly. I think he underestimated this just a little bit. CsO taking some very heavy trades here, and JD, she did not get the experience she needed from that fight.
Man, those are a lot of weak knights. Those cannot take any engagements. He didn't get the heal off. So he's got a bunch of 1 HP knights. They are going to go down. The Sipahi outspeed, taking some serious damage here. And MeomaikA with an excellent choice to stand and fight.
Now, this is perfectly reading his advantage here. We'll see if those imams, yes, they are.
Right
They're
there.
just arriving to ensure that that army gets healed up, not to full, but just enough for them to go and take yet another fight. Beautiful trade here by CsO, and the focus fire on that JD was sublime. I think in that point, CsO definitely did not expect him to be able to do that much at this point of the game. He's getting more spears. He sees the numbers of Sapahis increasing. So 4 more in queue. CsO knows he needs to respect this. Now, what I absolutely love to see is he's still going for docks, as MeomaikA has not been able to scout this just yet. And this is most likely the thing that's going to help him to stay afloat. But we can see that military value difference is already massive. And yes, there are knights, but 17 Sapahis, they tell a very different tale.
Well, and those imams did heal the entire army. I mean, that wasn't just some chip healing. They are back to full strength. That is so much value that MeomaikA just got back. As the Sipahi look for another dive. Spears going for the brace. Kind of a back and forth cat and mouse kind of game here as they back and forth. Spears finally getting on top. Does CsO have enough to hold this though? Imams up in the front lines trying to heal as they go. Villagers wrapping around. This is going to be close. A lot of knights going down.
It does look like a few villagers did pay the price, but at the same time, MeomaikA's army is just outperforming. You can see diving under the TC now. Those Sapahis do not mind a little bit of TC fire. JD is back though, and she is ready to take this on. Very surprising here from CsO not to see that he brought JD back, and she was not able to capitalize on this fight that went quite deep. And it feels like MeomaikA decided, hey, this is the moment where I actually need to do some damage while JD is down. Now that she's back up, he backs off, heals these bad boys up, and you can see he's going out for the food. He knows how important it is to keep this momentum going. The gold now, though, it's already looking at 600 here, so you do want to ask yourself, is it time for me to just commit to this a little bit harder or go castle? get ahead. But now he spots the dock. And this is
Docks
going
have
to go
been
down.
spotted.
Problem is, he sees this one. He knows what's next.
Yeah, when you see one, you just know there's going to be more after this.
And there's a bunch of villagers moving up top. Do you see those? They are just trying to sneak out, get towards the food. And this might be a risky move here, Chief.
Well, the tricky thing is eventually, Supply are going to come up on them anyways, because they're going to run to the north to see what else is there. Even though there's now a ship in the water to defend it, there's all these other pawns that are equally as undefended now. Those villagers might be caught out.
If he finds them, but they're already putting themselves in a very vulnerable position here. The knights now pushing the Sipahi in a different direction, but those are purely Sipahi. There's no scout there with them to be able to spot that far, so they might not spot these out. But JD is here, and she doesn't mind getting a little bit of experience. 16 as the Sipahi goes down, and they're going to be rotating back towards the base as the Imperial Palace is coming on out here.
Ow.
And honestly, that was not on my bingo card.
I agree. I was just thinking, man, when's the last time I've seen an Istanbul Imperial Palace? Isn't the go-to the MIA? Like this is fun to see. He is ahead. I'm not surprised by the castle age itself, though. MeomaikA very well ahead in both terms of economy and military strength. Definitely feels comfortable doing this. The choice of landmark has me scratching my head, though. I guess there's no real reason to go siege, though, at this point. You know, it's been kind of a fast-paced game. What does siege really get him?
Yeah, the value of the siege for a lot of people just outweighs a lot of the time, especially when you get to the later points of the game. But at the same time, you don't want to be playing Imperial against JD when they do have the ability of just looking at that guild hall and getting Imperial, you know, pretty quickly. So this is not something you want to be fighting out, especially with the knights being so tough to handle. So MeomaikA, I feel like he is going to be ready to do some damage and do it now. Both of these players are already farm transitioning as the food is running a little bit low. Still just 6 traders on there in the poor little trading landmark. What is that thing called again, Sockington?
The Sultani Trade Network. Yep.
See, we never see it. It just...
You see it more than you used to, but it definitely isn't an everyday kind of thing. Guildhall coming up for CSO. He definitely needs to have the bank to be able to maybe jump into Imperial Age. The problem is, do you really want to go Imperial Age against Ottomans? I mean, you're going to need to keep this anyways. I don't think you have enough knights to make use of the other landmarks, so Guildhall is the right choice in my opinion. But, man, I just think long-term, you don't really want to get caught with a great bombard fight with Ottomans.
Of course not. But with 5 knights, it's also a pretty tough question to ask if you're like, hey, do I go for the Royal Institute? These knights are going to be chonky. The problem is, the Sipahis running around the map, they are even more chonky at this point, just because of the sheer numbers, and they are looking for some damage. Now keep in mind, those guys should be able to see that the deer are dead in the fog of war if you decided to go on there, but it looks like the docks are going to be the choice here, and the villagers are running for their lives, hoping they don't get spotted, and because, again, there's no scout, they don't get spotted at all.
Man, that's cheeky, just running around the edge of the map, getting away. And for all CSO, for all MeomaikA might know, is this might just be it, you know, just taking down the docks. Ooh, demo ship gets off, though. That was a cheeky play. Manages to get some good damage on the Sipahi. Knights in pursuit. I think the numbers, though, still favor MeomaikA. Knights can't do too much here.
That's the problem right now. And also, these are fully upgraded Sipahis. Now, with relics joining them as well, so they're not going to have any chance for healing up just yet. But that will be an option pretty soon. Now, men-at-arms getting added into this composition. And honestly, that's quite interesting to me here. You haven't seen a large commitment into ranged units from CSO, but also it's something that JD is not uncomfortable doing, just being able to do that ARP transition, especially when you get with a juicy little front line there, those spears being able to stop the Sipahi from getting onto the back line. Although, with those numbers, MeomaikA might just be feeling quite confident. Now getting his own knights to join this party as well. And honestly, I would not have expected Ottoman knights against the French ones, but these are just normal French knights, so the trades will not be as crazy as we usually see with that Royal Institute ones, but CSO is looking for his own bit of damage now, and he will definitely find a lot of stray villagers. Let's see if any of them will go down, though.
Well, they're not. Ooh. Military coming in defense from MeomaikA. I don't think he lost a single one. No, he lost one. Okay, he lost a villager there. That could have been a lot more devastating if the military hadn't been in the vicinity to come and defend. Thankfully, Sipahi are pretty quick, so he's able to chase the knights out of his base. I'm still thinking back to MeomaikA's choice of landmark, and I guess he must have burned at a vizier point to go for the Akinji. So maybe he's thinking I can, you know, if we take a look here, we can see, yeah, I got the Imams, got the Janissaries. Maybe he's just thinking because of that, he gets more value out of this, getting more vizier points than he would have out of just some siege where he's not going to be needing a lot of siege.
Honestly, with the Janissaries that he chose, I'm pretty surprised because I think he only had one military school. But popping up those Janissaries did not feel as powerful as you would have expected.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, not a single military school there at all. What? This is the craziest thing I've seen out of Ottoman so far. This is usually what we struggle, and now he's going for the semi-great bombard as the next vizier point, and this is a pretty spicy play here from MeomaikA. He's not really playing the way that Ottomans is played by all the other pro players. He doesn't have any military schools here, which is something, you know,
Feels
we
wrong,
see every
doesn't it?
single game.
It feels like wrong to look at. Like not a single military school, 20 minutes in the game for Ottomans. And in fairness, he's done pretty well up to this point. It's a pretty dead even game at this point here, 20 minutes in. Will that great bombard or a lesser great bombard do enough? I mean, that's a full vizier point. He is getting a lot more vizier points a lot faster. He is now getting a couple of the relics stashed away, 2 of the relics in the house right there. I'm wondering how much of a difference this bombard can make in Castle Age.
The problem is just if that bombard does get caught out. But with the units that we see from CSO, he's going to need to be careful. He's got 36 spears, though. As I say this, I realize, no, with that amount of spearmen, you don't really mind taking a fight against the Sipahi. And the Sipahi might be scary, but they're not that scary with the huge amount of spearmen that are going to be protecting him as well. Especially when you don't want to be taking a direct engagement as MeomaikA like this. Not into a group of spears, at least. And CSO, he's pretty comfortable where he is right now. We can see the army value is on the side of MeomaikA, but honestly, CSOs might just be a little bit too much to take on if he decides to go for that back line.
Yeah, those spears, 40 spears with 11 more coming in the way. Even with one bombard doing some pretty good splash damage, I just don't know that he wants to take this fight. I don't think he's got the archer mass to really deal with it. He's going to take a look and see pretty soon what the composition is going to be for CSO. I'm just starting to think, you know, normally we think of Ottomans as these late game powerhouses in Imperial Age. I'm starting to get a little worried that CSO might actually have the better civ going into Imperial Age. He's going to have the bank. If he can get access to the gold and maintain that, he's going to be in a good spot. But Bombard rearing its ugly head and taking the first shot, that tower immediately lights on fire as MeomaikA kind of poking and prodding the base, looking for an avenue to come in.
Now, it doesn't look like CSO wants to take this fight just yet. He wants to see exactly what this army consists of, and honestly, when he does see that there's mostly horses, he should be feeling pretty good about this. And at the same time, CSO is in the base of MeomaikA, and he's trying to do some damage himself. Already getting some victims as we see the bodies hit the floor there in the base. So, is the army going to be next? Because this is just a tiny set of knights that are trying to do the work they can. But honestly, they are doing really well.
Yeah, there's nobody home. Just a couple of guys with guns, but not enough to be super scary yet, and they've been kind of just kiting them through the base. Good couple pickups there for CSO, and this is exactly what he needs to do, is just keep doing that chip damage to the eco, getting ahead, because behind this, Guildhall is just getting immense value. Whenever he decides to click up, he's going to be cruising. He's got about 1,000 gold in the bank right now. His military is, I still think, better. Whether or not he feels that is to be seen. The Bombard's doing some pretty good work. Right now, 1,200 food. He is getting very close to being able to click up.
And this bombard moving this far forward, it is going to do some damage, but it's in so much danger just being this far out. He knows that he cannot protect it as much as he needs to. Now, 19 Janissaries though. The numbers are starting to get a little scary, but CSO's army is not consisting of a bunch of horses that are so susceptible to those Jannies. They are actually going to be in a lot of danger when that army does come.
That was a good shot from the bombard, and I was wondering how well that'll go into the spears. The problem is, I think you're right. Like, there's not enough cavalry for MeomaikA to use those Janissaries to full effect. I mean, normally that'd go really well into a French play, but French has been making spears for like 7 minutes. Big fight up north here. Oh man, close to being a pincer maneuver. Bombard left open, looking for a shot. The heel goes off from JD, and the fight is on. Spears getting on top of the Sipahi. Bombard taking its shots where it can. A wrap around of Spears, though. This could be really bad for MeomaikA. Can the Spears hold? Bombard goes pop. JD goes down. This is going to get really close.
The problem is now MeomaikA is not the Ottomans we're used to seeing, not the Ottomans with all those military schools at the back. It is just a plain old Ottomans that is a normal civilization. Military schools cut off. The Vizier point has just ticked, as I heard. But the problem is that army was idle there at the start. We cannot actually count that fight as, you know, the ultimate fight we wanted to see from MeomaikA. It looked like the Janissaries were just watching the fight for the first few seconds. The Bombard also not sure what he was doing at that point. He was just watching and hoping things were about to get better. We also see Farms all the way out here from CSO. He is feeling confident now, and he's going to bring that confidence into Imperial Age. We've seen these red palaces come up in the middle of the map, and it is always a destruction. These farms are getting further and further away from the TCs, and when you're up against CSO, who loves raiding, you know that those farms are going to be even more susceptible to any type of night play from him. Guildhall has been cashed out, though. The Red Palace is placed down pretty close to the sacred site here. Oh, decent spot.
He's got the military for it. He just needs to push forward. He can take this easily. Yeah, that was a decisive blow militarily from CSO. An excellent play. The Bombard did a lot of damage. You can see a lot of weak units there. The Bombard was doing some work, but it just didn't do enough. You can't bank on one siege unit to do all your fighting for you. And here we see the Red Palace, and this is where the wheels fall off for Ottomans. They don't have military schools. That is essentially where they get their economic bonuses from. So without that, they've got the Sultani Trade Network getting some passive gold. He's got the edge on the relics, but at the end of the day, CSO is just ahead because he's getting the consecration from JD, so he's getting his economic bonuses in military production, and now with the Red Palace going up and the farm transition with the guild hall. I mean, you just kind of start listing out all these things. I feel like CSO is in a very strong spot moving into Imperial Age.
Now, MeomaikA needs to ask himself, how do I actually take this on when it gets to that point? Because CSO, he has a lot of John's champions there. It doesn't feel like MeomaikA is going to be ready to face all of that, especially considering his army doesn't have the perfect answer to this. And it feels like CSO has played this matchup before. He knows exactly what to expect here out of Ottomans. But honestly, okay, MeomaikA, he might not be giving him the standard Ottomans experience, though. The Spahis, though, they're trying to find an opening, but the walls have come up. The map has been split, and those Spahis are going to work really hard to run by these walls.
Yeah, everything's walled up, so he's going to have enough of a buffer to catch up. And, you know, MeomaikA's got some Janissaries. Those should go okay into the champions. The problem is they're not a hard counter. They're more like a soft counter, and you got to kite the entire way. And eventually CSO is just going to end up in his base. So there's not, like, that's a lot of Janissaries. That's like the one thing he's got going for him, but you're down in age. You got the upgrades coming, elite army tactics right now in the works for CSO. That's going to make these guys just so beefy and dangerous. Now he's got both sacred sites as well. So you got the timer ticking down, which isn't a huge deal right this second, but it will be in a couple minutes when those just kind of blink by. And MeomaikA, it feels like this was a build that was meant to deal out one decisive blow, and instead it feels like his sword just shattered when he finally swung.
Well, keeping in mind that CSO and Louis play together well, we know that Louis knows how to defend. CSO is not far behind. This is never going to be an easy game for MeomaikA to actually break through. But honestly, that one fight where the units were not standing at the ready, this was probably just the decider in this case. Because yes, like this build is saying, we need to get a very, very heavy blow. We see still no military schools out here. And this looks to be a push here from CSO. He's got that elite army tactics, and this is going to be a tough one. Janissaries are trying their best. JD screaming at the skies to heal what she can. Jean's champions, the front line, doing a lot of work here, but the archers are target firing these Janissaries. It's going pretty okay for MeomaikA as far as these things are concerned at the start. But then, as the Janissaries are getting less and less, this doesn't feel too good, because we know behind this, CSO is able to rebuild this. And MeomaikA, he was stuck in castle indefinitely.
Yeah, that would have been a decent trade, but inevitably he's winning. It's a good, like, kind of a wash in the battle. You take a draw on the battlefield, but in the end you're losing the war. as MeomaikA just has no way to replenish this, and you can see the graphs kind of show it there. Villager count, that's about even, but I think in the end, it's just the fact that the military numbers just down in age. You're just gonna have a hard time competing as things go on. You can't afford to reinvest everything you have, especially when you don't have any military schools. You don't have any free units coming in. You're putting all of your hard-earned cash back into units, but you need to be aging up. In the end, he just got too far behind CsO with a really good hold. That one fight, like you said, maybe some Janissaries not doing what they should have been doing. And one click sometimes can decide these games, as we see here. CsO takes game number 1.
And CsO is definitely not someone who is going to be too upset at this performance. He was able to ensure that he adjusts his playstyle to something he's probably never seen in his life. But it also spells exactly what he should be expecting this game. MeomaikA doing some spicy things, because this could have been devastating if CsO was not able to adjust. Now, very quickly, he went away from the Knights because he knows what this looks like. And I think a lot of us that may be watching here learn something from that, because usually when you pick a Knight civilization into Ottomans, you already feel that pit of despair and the voice screaming at you like, oh no, there's Janissaries, I am cooked. But CsO was not cooked. CsO had a plan, and that plan was Jean's champions.
Yeah, those worked really, really well. Even the Janissaries, like again, Janissaries do an okay job of countering those. Maybe not as well as crossbows or actual hand cannoneers do, but they do okay. But with the archers behind, I mean, that was what made the difference. I think having the archers behind that, and I think MeomaikA just kind of saw the writing on the wall, kind of understood that, hey, I'm not really winning this to fight decisively. There's no way back up, and then just GG next. You know, there's more games to be played. Can maybe still take one here. And that bombard, it's one of those cases of like what could have been, right? Like if this had been microed to perfection on MeomaikA's part, could he have won this fight that we're looking at right here on the replay? I'm not convinced he could have, but then again, maybe. You know, it's hard to say. As we see the full wraparound happen, CsO wrapping all the way around. It was really just almost a full clear of units. Good game though, a fun game, number 1.
And we do see the next match is going to be nice and spicy because it's on excavation. Now, what I really love about this is the fact that we get Mongols on this map again. The only games I've watched on this map have been dominated by Mongols because they just have units that deal pretty well with how the resources spawn and they can respond to most things. Well, HRE, they do pretty well as well, but again, Mongols are spicy, and what we saw from MeomaikA now was a little bit of spice. So he's probably going to keep that spice running and ensure that HRE has a pretty hard time through this. Now, excavation, tell me about this. What has your tournament experience been on this map, Socketen, from what you've seen?
It's been interesting. This is one of those maps it plays out so interesting in my mind that it feels kind of like a dry Arabia, but you just got these pockets of just so much in little spots here and there. I feel like more often than not, I've just seen pro scouts a lot on this map, but these two civs, neither of these really play to that. So as far as this goes, I'm actually curious to see what HRE wants to do here. I think kind of expect Mongols to do Mongol things, but I'm really curious how HRE responds on this map. There's just so many things. As far as the excavation goes, it just feels like almost a janky map, in my opinion.
He's already giving you an answer, though. Getting all that wood here tells us that CsO is going to be ready for anything that MeomaikA tries to pull.
Immediate barracks.
Coming in. And this is so smart and responsible at the same time. He knows what could be happening here. Villager instantly getting that Oovo down. MeomaikA start ticking on that stone. And now CsO, is he going to be the one with the spears and try and shut down something like the Oovo pretty early on? Because now he's scouting and he's about to see, hello, the Oovo is quite far. I could potentially do a little bit of damage here. Usually with the TC being close to the Oovo, it makes it very hard to hit this thing properly. But now with that information, I would not be surprised if CsO just completely goes for it.
I'm thinking about the choice for HRE on this map with all those excavation spots. Like, you like the idea of getting your relics, but I just don't know that Mongols is going to let you really do that too effectively. It's one of those things. This is one of those POIs that, like, there's some POIs in this game that have been added that I really, really enjoy. And for me, the jury's still kind of out on the excavation ones. I don't quite know what my opinion is if I like it or don't like it. I like the flair it adds to the game. I'm not sure how I feel about it in a tournament sense. I'm still kind of on the fence. Curious what you think.
Yeah, usually when we talk to the players, they like straightforward maps and to see exactly like, okay, I know how this thing is about to be played out. The person with the most skill wins this. And Excavation is one of those maps that you need to add that little spice. And yes, guys, I know I'm using my quota for my spiciness, but you need to add a little bit of flavor to this. And right now, the Oovo is under duress if those spearmen keep coming out.
Kind of fun to see CSO taking the advanced option of going aggressive in Dark Age here with the spearmen. Kind of flipping what you normally see on Mongols on its head. I like the choice. I mean, there was no doubt too that this is what he wanted to do. He knew from the get-go that he wanted to get some spears out. He wanted to slow down what Mongols wants to do, which is, again, it feels kind of funny to see because so often Mongols is the one being aggressive in Dark Age. Looking at the Gur, looking to get some chip damage on that. 4 spears is formidable though at this early point in the game.
Yeah, it's especially forcing your opponent to keep making his own. Now, with no gold in the bank that MeomaikA needs to age up, he's actually going to stay committed to this. But at the same time, so is CSO. He says, I'll just keep making them. Don't you worry, young lad. But at the same time, I'm thinking about Feudal myself. So those spears that MeomaikA needs to make, I feel like they are a little bit more expensive in the grand scheme of things. Now, especially because when you think about the amount of spears that can do the damage to Mr. HRE over there, they're not going to be allowed to move out whatsoever. The Khan, he sees the boys. He's going to need to be careful here with the spear numbers. They are pretty chunky, but CSO, he has more on the way. And 0 gold has been mined here.
This is kind of the dangerous part about trying to out Dark Age Mongols is it reaches a point where they're kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll do the same thing. And then you're just as far behind as they are. So it'll be seen whether or not there's a whole lot of value that CSO got on this. He did slow down MeomaikA's gold gathering. He does have 100 in the bank, and now CSO has matched that and is gathering some as well. Curious to see who ends up ahead. Ooh, almost lost the con though. Got a good jab there, almost mismicroed.
Now,
MeomaikA pulls away just in time.
Yes, and that's exactly what I mean with the Khan just having to be careful, because you lose focus for half a second, and the Khan's gone. That bad boy is not coming back anytime soon. He needs his time. He's not JD. You can't just buy him back. But MeomaikA now finally going up to Feudal himself. And the timing, pretty good. I can see with CSO here, he's already got the gold in the bank, but he has spent a significant amount more on those spears, considering that MeomaikA got a few of those double produced from the stone. So he had to use a lot less food than CSO had to himself. But the Oovo is definitely going to feel those numbers pretty soon.
Spears, meanwhile, finding the deer on the other side. They're going to maybe get some kills here. The signal arrow is shot off, so they are moving it as fast as they can. Villager awfully low. That's going to be at least 1 down. Oh, the body block. Excellent. Excellent micro from CSO. Saving a villager. It just gets into safety of the town center in time. However, there is 1 vill that does go down at the price of a spear. It could have been more. Could have been a lot more. That body block was pretty good. In the end, still loses us a villager. The Oovo, however, torched down. It is now nothing but a pile of ash, and the villagers have to leave the excavation site.
That stone has done its job, at least for a little while, but those spears did the same. Definitely paying off here, but MeomaikA, he knew he wouldn't be able to rival those numbers, so just going across the map and trying to make this work. Pretty impressive move here. The question is now, when CSO moves back with those spears that are just a little bit faster than those of the Mongols, is he going to be able to do some damage to them? And actually get a little bit of a redemption for that poor villager that just went down.
Deerstones is down for MeomaikA. He is up to age 2, and Aachen Chapel is on the way as well.
And that is a very
that's a
fast
lot.
arcade. Yeah.
That is a 18, 19, 20. That is a very fast Aachen Chapel. They are building that in a hurry.
Those guys, they know that there's a goal out here, and it's to stay alive. And the only way he stays alive is by ensuring that his spears can be upgraded when they go into a fight like this, because there is still a heavy amount of them. Now he's targeting the house as well, and he should be able to get this thing to burn. But the spears have arrived, they have surrounded, and it starts burning. They try to pull back, but some of them will pay the price.
Do you spend 2 spears for 25 gold? Is that worth it?
I'm
trying to do some math in my head, and I'm not sure. And I guess there's also the chip damage of having to repair the house a little bit.
Yeah, especially with that idle time on the gold, it doesn't feel like it has been worth it. But when you get to that point, you feel like, okay, I've committed these spears to the cause. I might as well just continue it. I'm going to lose some anyway. Now we see that movement speed from the HRE actually paying off as they're catching up to the spears of MeomaikA. MeomaikA instantly going here for archers. He knows he needs to find a way to deal with those. But CsO himself is going to be able to change his style a little bit. We see a lot of villagers there on wood. He's going to get ready with his own archers pretty soon.
And it really feels like MeomaikA kind of left those spears of his to the dust as his con ran away, as the faster running CsO HRE spears caught up and kind of just killed a couple more of them. This is all that's left. Not a lot. Probably could have saved a couple more with a well-timed signal arrow, but unfortunately for MeomaikA is down a couple units there. The interesting thing about this map, though, is that the stone for Mongols, with the excavation sites, you're getting a lot more than you would normally from just the Oovo. So this ability to double produce archers is really enhanced on this map, which is I think why we see Mongols picked so frequently on this one. With the extra excavation, the extra stone you get, there's no reason not to, because the Oovo is just getting so much more value than it would otherwise.
Now with this heavy, I guess we could just call it a commitment into archers. Apparently all my words left me the moment I try to say that sentence. Archers are going to do great, but now with men-at-arms in the mix, this starts to get a little bit more difficult to actually take them down. Because the problem is when you're playing against an HRE with archers, they do a really good job at chasing you down and actually target firing you. And those men-at-arms that are going to be on the front line, are just going to ensure that your trades are not going to be working as efficiently. MeomaikA, I feel like he's going to need a lot more mobility here if he wants to ensure that he does damage here to CsO. Because yes, he is in a position where he got a villager kill at least, but this might not be enough to face someone like CsO on the HRE, especially when the game gets longer and longer.
Kind of a tough spot to be in, right? Because the mobility would be certainly nice, but with how many spears CsO has, you don't really want to go too quickly and too abruptly into like Keshiks or something. There's not a whole lot. I guess maybe some Mangadai could do some decent value at this point, but it's just a lot of investment, you know? Right now we do have, it looks like a Cons Hunter and in the queue, or at least on the field now, as a Cons Hunter right there with the Con.
Now,
a little bit of chip damage, a little bit of kiting.
Yes, it definitely gives you that a little bit of an edge when it comes to that mobility. But again, they're usually not that great at actually doing any damage. So especially when they don't have their units to accompany them. Now that men-at-arm count increasing as well. But surprisingly enough, CsO not getting that +1 ranged armor first. He instead tries to go for his own attack here. MeomaikA has a lot of more archers though, so this is going to be a tough one. CsO needs to hold back before he tries to take this. The archers though, they're going to be looking at this wood line, and this wood line, it is going to be a little susceptible as we are chopping on through. And remember guys, we've all seen Mongols over wood lines. When that Khan puts his bird in the sky, that is when villagers start to die.
You know, it's the best aerial unit in the game. There it goes. Shooting over the wood line. Signal arrow goes off again. Not much that CsO can do other than just take the hit. Maybe take down one archer. Not a lot going there. Looks like CsO's in a bit of a precarious spot right here. He definitely could outscale. He's getting a lot of eco upgrades right now. But yeah, this wood line, this is where he wants his villagers to be with the Aachen Chapel. But with that bird, pesky bird, relaying all the information back to the Khan and MeomaikA, it puts him in a kind of a tough bind. And there's not really a good secondary wood either.
CsO just losing his scout as well. He's going to not be able to chase down this army as before, knowing exactly where they will be striking. But CsO needs to find a way for those villagers to actually be able to stay alive when that Khan shoots his arrow. And now it looks like they're getting into position for yet another one. The army from CsO, though, it's starting to become pretty robust as well. The problem is just when you're up against 36 archers, this gets harder and harder, and another villager is going to be under siege. Another one going down, and these trades are fantastic for MeomaikA. He just keeps winning.
Yeah, this little chip damage. I mean, five worker kills now for him. Now with the Aachen Chapel doing just a general buff to those units, it's hard to know exactly who's ahead on that. But you get more than 5 villager kills here, and it's gonna start feeling pretty good for MeomaikA. Now there are a lot of men-at-arms, taking a look at the deer stones, trying to torch that down. Again, though, like you said, 41 archers, even the men-at-arms are susceptible to some pretty quick shots to death. I mean, it only takes, when we got 41, you could basically two-shot each one of them. And there's only 8 of them on the field. So I feel like MeomaikA is in a really strong spot, adding the towers up, getting that YAM network moving.
Now, with the wood in the bank of CSO, he's going to need to do something to actually be able to secure that wood line here. This is the question I usually ask myself. Is this where I put a tower on my wood line and try to at least pick off an archer or two? But with the numbers being this large, it just doesn't feel like that would even be enough. He has migrated over to the other side, hoping that this wood line will be a little bit safer as he's trying to get those archer numbers higher and higher. 2 more now queued up. And we do see survival techniques coming on in as he's out there on the deer. So this is the interesting part about Mongols as well. When you start to slow down a little bit and not actually keep rotating around, this is when you give your opponent that little bit of breathing room. So now he's staying on this wood line, but the villagers have all migrated elsewhere.
One good thing about this, though, is that by pushing them off the Aachen Chapel, they are not gathering as efficiently as they were before. So that is still a win for MeomaikA, as he looks to maybe shoo off units away from the deer stones, which is down to half its health right now.
The question is just, is MeomaikA going to need to commit to this, or does he just go for a slow but steady push, and then a slow but steady castle, as we see out of Mongols quite often, with especially that huge amount of archers? If you want to give a good answer to those men-at-arms, we've seen how they do that. But now only 10 men-at-arms against 55 archers. Production has stopped there for a second, and we'll see if he decides to go as well. Horticulture now being chosen for him. So this is going to mean that he knows that the food is going to be limited. I would not be surprised to see here from the back finally him getting some other sources as well. We do see the deer slowly getting depleted. And again, the army is rotating. More archers now queued up as he's not ready to stop this just yet. TC firing back. And it does tickle those archers, but just a little bit.
And this is such a tough spot for CSO. You're just back into a corner. You see the walls planned out. He wants to be able to hold. Ideally, he wants to be able to go to Castle Age. If he can get his units into Castle Age veterancy and then push out, he'd be in a great spot. The problem is, it feels like the moment he commits to a Castle Age is when MeomaikA is going to finally dive. And you feel like you're in this stalemate then of like, I can't really move out. I can't age up. All I can do is keep making some units and slowly stockpile for castle and hope that I have enough units that when I do click up, I can withstand the wave of blue that's going to try and come into my base.
And you can see with the amount of gold he has, this is not something that he'll be able to easily get. Because with this gold that he has right now, he's not going to afford any upgrades. And at the same time, with MeomaikA going for those Keshiks, MeomaikA is making this a very, very risky move. Because Keshiks, they don't mind a good old TC dive, especially when you go for castle yourself, but the Burgrave Palace is chosen. Now, the fact that it's being built with 21... it means he wants this and he wants it now. Oh, and I love this. The archers firing at that wood wall, trying to get it down. But the Geshiks have arrived and ready to help. But 21 villagers, quickly going back to that. That Burgrave is coming up at the speed of light. The problem is, the Burgrave needs a lot of gold for the upgrades. And again, he just doesn't have that.
He could try and sneak out to the north side of the map if he wanted. There's lots of open up there. MeomaikA hasn't been over that way some time. He could easily sneak out. Problem is, like, he needs the gold now. He needs it like a minute ago. And now that the Burgrave's up, it's great. You can get the upgrade really, really quickly. So that's actually huge. He's got 14 men-at-arms. He needs the upgrade, but there's still 69 archers on the field coming into his base. What can he do about this? Deerstone's moving in. This might just be it. Can CSO hold? If he can hold, he might be in a good spot, but I don't know. With 71 archers moving in, the Burgrave now getting spawn camped. As you can see right there, one men-at-arm takes a couple of volleys and he's down. Does CSO have enough is the big question.
The problem is now those archers of CSO, they are not looking too healthy when it comes to the fact that they are still feudal H1s. The men-at-arms, they're going to do their best at this, but oof, those Keshiks, the charges are deadly on those men-at-arms. But is this going to be enough? It looks like 16 is a pretty healthy amount. The archers are trying to kick off all the other ones, ignoring the Keshiks, because they know they just need to take care of the damage dealers at the back there. 50 archers now, and slowly it looks like CSO's army is standing, not strong, a little bit bruised, but alive and pushing back.
He's gonna win. He's gonna get through.
Yes,
He's gonna
those
get through because the
men-at-arms.
archer mass behind. The archer mass was untouched behind this entire time. All the archers of MeomaikA were focused on the men-at-arms. They only took down like 5 or 6 of them. Oh, behind that, the Burgrave just popping them out. The archer mass, though, of CSO carries him through. That was the DPS that saved him.
And that feels pretty good as CSO right now. Even with those Feudal Age archers, he was able to pick off everything as MeomaikA had to be focused on these men-at-arms just tanking the front lines. I'm actually surprised at how well they dealt with that army mass, especially considering they only had their veterancy. They didn't actually have +2. But the archer numbers, apparently, you just need a lot more men-at-arms before they don't die to archers. And he did a pretty good job at that. But behind this, what does MeomaikA now do? He's lost a significant chunk of his army. And when CsO decides he's going to be the one to attack, he is going to be in a lot of trouble.
+1 now is definitely in for CSO. So now those archers are no longer the play. Kashyyyks have nowhere to go. They're getting hunted down by the main force of CSO's army. What a hold that was. It really just came down to the fact that men-at-arms are tanky and the DPS behind this. Ooh, cheeky find right here. Villager on villager action. CSO trying to get cheeky for some food, but MeomaikA is going to get this round and get a lot of value for this.
That
That's
point
going to
tower
sting a
is
little
not
bit.
Yeah, and it's not going to get repaired at any point here. Those things cannot repair at the speed of light. The villagers don't even care about fighting this anymore. The army has arrived, and CsO, he's losing a few of these vills. He's feeling a little bit confident here. He does still need to be careful. He lost a lot of villagers in all of that, but even with that discrepancy, MeomaikA is on a timer here too. Because if those men-at-arms arrive, he's got nothing to handle them.
Well, and he's got the gold to age up, but he does not have the food. So he's hard stuck in Feudal Age for the next little bit. He needs to be producing units. He's got a huge problem with that. CSO's army is going to come for him in any second here. MeomaikA is now the one stuck in a rock and a hard place as he just has no real avenue. He's going to drop down the Kurlatai, but this feels like it might be a bit brash. I think he has to try and get the Castle Age. Problem is, I don't know if he's going to have the production to be able to match what's coming for his base.
There's no Burgrave he gets to fall back on to ensure he gets the upgrade in seconds. He actually needs to wait for these. The problem is as well, you need food for those upgrades. And right now, he is a little stepsister stuck right here. 24 now finishing the Kurlatai. And yes, they will be healing up those units. We see those villagers. They know they're going to be sitting ducks if they still stay out here. So they're moving out back to the base as the army is rotating around now. MeomaikA instantly prioritizing that archer upgrade as he knows this is the main composition he has. He needs to ensure that those archers are actually ready to do some damage. The problem is, he hasn't been microing them perfectly, especially against this mass where you can't just A-move.
CSO giving a little bit of time for MeomaikA. MeomaikA just needs another 30 seconds or so to get that veterancy up. He does have 34 archers. That's formidable. 34 to 35. If he can get that up into veterancy, he'll feel a lot more comfortable taking a fight, especially under the Kurlatai. CSO, I think, is respecting that Kurlatai and kind of wrapping around, looking for some more villagers, trying to see what's on the map. He's going to let MeomaikA survive for now, but man, the fact that CSO is even still in this game is, I think, incredible.
CsO is ready to do that counterattack now as +2 has come on in. And we can see now with the +2 attack, he is going to feel pretty feisty when he collapses. But MeomaikA knows the dangers of this, and that is why he's going for that counterattack with the mobility, because he knows where the army is. This is the one time he has the shot of doing the damage as well. Now, looking for a few villager kills, but the villagers are running at the speed of a wheelbarrow and getting to that TC. Just don't know if there's going to be enough space for all of them. Just enough.
But unfortunately, there's still more villagers around.
Doesn't
kills,
have the
but the-
reinforcements.
And there comes men-at-arms now from the rest of the force coming in. So maybe a little bit of value there, but not able to stick around. Those Kashyyyks have to leave.
They did their damage. They were able to get a little bit of idle time. They got a villager kill too. These guys probably okay with what they are dealt with. CsO needs to use this time to actually find a way to get into MeomaikA's base. Because MeomaikA, we can see that food has recovered. It does probably come from the boar that he has decided to go onto. And as we can see, he doesn't have any resources to build proper units with. Right now, just building Kashyyyks every single time he can. Crossbows next And now finally, the gold is also looking pretty decent. We see from CSO only on 117 gold per minute. Now 0. This means that CSO is not... He's in a good position right now, but for how long? Especially considering that MeomaikA is the one being the aggressor. He is causing that idle time. Although, he might pay a pretty steep price for it.
I want to point out, as we're watching these Keshiks slowly get rounded up by the men-at-arms, if I'm looking at the mini-map, and walled in on CSO's base is one of those POIs, the excavation site. Is that actively being gathered by MeomaikA still in the base? Down in the east corner? Maybe not. Still owned by him, however, though. It's just kind of funny. It's a little blip of blue inside that base.
Well,
at least Keshiks, I don't have...
They make it out barely alive for now, but it does look like men-at-arms were there to intercept them. And CSO does have his little villager all the way out here on berries, which is actually quite surprising to see this far out, considering there's a pretty massive army making its way out here too. Now, the market here at the back, it does mean this man has been selling, I would say food most likely, as we did see that food income just outscaling every other income he had. You have to take a look at where those resources are, because CSO now will be the one who moves out. With that army that he has, he can make anything happen. We do see that he's floating a little bit of resources here, not really committing to something specific, and I'm very scared to say that, because it feels like he might be committing to another age.
Yeah, it feels like he's kind of caught in between right now. He definitely could be saving up. I think the tricky thing is the Kurlitai. I think that's what's making him kind of take a pause and think, is does he want to take a full engagement under that Kurlitai? That's kind of the difference maker right now. If that didn't exist, I think CSO just herb stomps that army of MeomaikAs. With that Kurlitai there, you just, how many times have we all played a game where we think we've got the numbers, and without the Kurlitai we would have had the numbers, but the Kurlitai gives just enough of an edge that you end up stalling out and dying. And I think that's the one thing that CSO's thinking of, is like, well, if I dive, can I actually end it, or is it safer to take up the next age and then really end it in Imperial Age, where I feel like HRE is a very, very good powerhouse.
And with the fact that he can go Imperial here, it means he can catch up in that villager count, because he's very aware of how much he has lost. And with the Burgrave itself, it's not the same HRE as we're used to, right? And also not going for any of the relics. I mean, they do need to be excavated, so it's not something we are that used to playing. I say this and I see the resources just increasing. I was about to say, oh, this is going to be great. He's going to catch up in villagers. But as the food is increasing, this starts to feel a little bit Elsbachy. Oh, never mind. Besides Palace of Swabia, it is.
Caster's Curse there for you.
Yeah. He was thinking about it, though. I could feel it. This man was like, do I secure the whole map and make sure the man does not move out yet again? And this is going to feel pretty tough here for MeomaikA, because usually when your opponent ages up like this, you can hit them and you can hurt them. But 13 crossbows are not going to be enough to deal with 34 men-at-arms.
Especially HRE men-at-arms. No, exactly. And MeomaikA's moving out, knows he needs to make something happen. It's been a little too slow for too long. This Palace of Swabia, the tricky thing with this is that CSO actually has a ton of gold banked up behind it as well. So he's going to immediately be able to hit up some of those elite upgrades. And there it is, right in time to welcome the Keshiks coming in.
Doesn't look like those Keshiks going to make it far, though, but the men-at-arms, with that Burgrave, their upgrade is coming in at the speed of light. Now going to be 39 men-at-arms, and they are going to be chunky. With +3 range defense also coming in, those guys are not going to be taking any damage from this massive group of archers on the side of MeomaikA. MeomaikA, though, he's still committing to all of these Keshiks. He still feels like this is the way he's going to be able to do the damage. And right now, he's just staring straight at the building, not really sure what he's doing with it.
And it was really fun to watch the elite army, not the elite, the elite upgrade, the men-at-arms come in through the Burgrave. It just takes like 2 seconds, essentially. So immediately has the Imperial Age men-at-arms. And the fight is on. Keshiks trying to take a dive. Archers and crossbows trying to get on the back line, but man, do the numbers seem to favor CSO right here. Losing a lot up front, though, down to 27 men-at-arms, 39 archers. But can MeomaikA sustain this under the Kurlitai? This is not the best kind of fight you want to take as CSO. Wrapping around, trying to deal some damage. The Keshiks really pulling through here.
They have been doing an amazing job at providing that little bit of a front line. But the +3 ranged armor is in now, and those 10 crossbows are going to need to do a lot of work. Now, this wasn't a great fight for CSO. Yes, MeomaikA, he looks like he's doing pretty well here. He might actually be doing pretty well here. The problem is just, is he going to be able to end him here? Because we know, we've seen exactly what happens with the Swabia. The Keshiks, they seem to be the answer. They're just diving and diving. The archers are struggling here. But villager count did not get disrupted whatsoever.
The healing is just insane for Keshiks under a Kurlatai. They're just duking it into these heavy, tanky men-at-arms, getting healed by the Kurlatai, and then getting healed by their own vampiric fighting as well. Insanely tough and tanky front line with the archers and crossbows behind, doing just enough work to really clear CSO of his heavy front line. He is down militarily now. That was an incredibly good fight for MeomaikA.
You can see the army value does not lie, as it is so different between these two players. The villagers out here from the Palace of Swabia just really struggling to stay alive. So the problem is, when we get into this point of the game, you feel as HRE, I just need to hold on for a little while. But at the same time, he doesn't have the units left to just hold on. He's getting more and more men-at-arms, but the crossbow numbers are increasing as well.
Yeah, it feels like the combination of men-at-arms isn't quite working as well anymore. At what point do you maybe pivot? I mean, we see he's doubling down, looks like, on elite army tactics. So he definitely wants to stay with the men-at-arm play if he can, trying to get those archers out there. The healing is just giving so much value to MeomaikA right now.
And MeomaikA has been tapping out these little mines all around the map. Now, another gold mine going out. He needs to keep moving those villages. But with all of these units at the front, the pressure is still there. The question is just, what is his food like behind all of this? Is this something he can keep sustaining? Because we can see he's still making Keshiks. He's spending most of his stone so that he can keep this going. But look at all those pastures. They are producing sheep at the speed of light. These villages, they're snacking. You can even see this with CSO. His eco has been idled out quite a bit here at the front, and those farms have been burned just a little bit to ensure that MeomaikA gets all the bounty he needs. Those Keshiks, they get a little bit of damage, they run back in, move out. These guys are just going exactly where they need to be. But the problem is, CSO's villager count is slowly growing, and it's growing much higher than MeomaikA can keep up with.
I like that he's got a culverin in the queue. That could be the difference here. If he can find a way to snipe that Kurlatai out, because I think the Kurlatai is really what lost him that fight. If he can get that off of his front porch, he'll be feeling a lot more comfortable about taking fights in the future. He's got to keep it alive, however. Over and taking a pot shot at one of the Keshiks. Needs to get onto the Kurlatai, and there's the first shot again at one of the archers instead of it. There we go. Now it's hitting the Kurlatai. And now I feel like CSO can kind of sit back and wait, because the Kurlatai cannot advance really any further into the base. In fact, it's going to have to back off a little bit here. This is where CSO can start the creep. With the long-range siege, he can kind of just force MeomaikA back further and further, because he can't push that Kurlatai into the base. He can't go in and charge it. However, we do see a raid maybe coming up here on the north side. Sorry, south side there.
It looks like MeomaikA realized, hey, I'm probably not going to be able to do the damage I need by just attacking into this defensive position. I need to go where the villagers are. And with him going over here, he gets that information. He sees what's going on. But the problem is, what does this give him? Now the Kaganet Palace coming on up, and we've seen what the Kaganet Palace can do. I just don't think it is the same amount of power when your opponent is already Imperial, getting close to 200 supply himself. Now, his first set of units, let's see what the Kaganet Palace is going to be providing. Oh, it's traveling. I was wondering, is this a bug? Okay, never mind. It's safe, guys. Just give us a second. Nice.
Palace
guards. Yeah, here's something nice. His opponent doesn't have anything wild against it, except for those chunky HRE men-at-arms with
oh man, if he can
very spicy weapons.
He can go torch that real quick. He's got an opening. He needs to just get some value. If he can just keep that thing under duress, over and kind of moving up, if he needs to get rid of that Kurlatai. Man, I'm just thinking how bad that fight was in front of his base with the Kurlatai sitting right there. Cannot afford to give that much value, as we have 22 idle. They've mined up the gold. That's going to be a problem late game here, as the gold is kind of in front of those walls. CSO needs to make sure he can grab those and secure those.
Now, this is a Kurultai in your own base, which is not something a lot of us would have expected. But MeomaikA, he's still going for those Keshiks. He wants these Keshiks to work. He knows where he needs to attack. Let's see if he's actually going to do it. Yes, they're going straight for that wall yet again. And they are now of the elite variety, so they're going to be able to take a few extra hits. Villagers already pulling back. But CsO, this again, he's not playing the usual HRE. There are no relics in the base of his. So the gold that he's on, that is the gold he needs to get. The Keshiks constantly just burning.
I'm curious at what point in this game, if it keeps going on and the gold starts drying up, that CsO pivots into spears. Not going to go well into the Keshik. There are a lot of range in it still for MeomaikA as well, but 40 Keshiks though. Man, at what point do you start thinking it might be worth it to switch?
Well, that point has not yet been reached, Mr. Sockington. This man, he wants to keep going. The Keshiks are going to charge in, not really landing the charge. Men-at-Arms taking a few of their buddies down there, and we can see the horses just falling. Keshiks now are going to be in a little bit of a tight spot here, because if they keep doing this, their trades are going to be very unfavorable. MeomaikA now, he wants to do some damage, attacking on a few different fronts. The Culverin just providing that extra layer of back off right now. And the keep as well. He put down that keep to ensure that he doesn't die to these continuous raids. The problem is, these raids are quite chunky.
Now, the one good thing is that these raids in the base, there's no Kurultai to take care of it. However, here's the Kurultai right there, and this looks like a repeat of the first fight. Culverin's out. It might get sniped. Can he take care of it? Just in time does he get the wraparound to save it. That was spooky. Culverin needs to take out that Kurultai. Right now, fighting right under top of it. This could be bad. And the surround coming from behind. Keshiks getting on top of the Culverin. It goes down. A pincer maneuver. He knew they were back there and gets caught. And this might just be GG, as there is no escape for this army.
Feels like replenishing this army is quite impossible, but CsO, he's got 12 more men-at-arms in queue. He wants to take this. Apparently, when you have Keshiks, they can deal with men-at-arms if there's enough of them, and they are showing exactly that. Even the HRE variety melts when they're from all these directions, but the archer combination, they just weren't going to be able to do anything about this mass as well.
Man, bringing the Keshik from behind. And the sad thing is that CsO knew that they existed. He had seen them in the back of the base. He must have just forgotten about them a little bit. Didn't think they would come back. Right behind, hits the Culverin. Probably was losing that fight anyways, to be honest. But then just the death blow right behind when you're getting surrounded like that, and just perfect pincer maneuver. What a surround. What a way to win. MeomaikA ties the series 1-1. We've got ourselves a competitive series, Whammon.
And I don't think anyone expected this, because CsO, he's been putting his head up there with the top 8. And MeomaikA, he's basically the new kid on the block, especially in these S-tier tournaments. So people want to see MeomaikA doing well. And his playstyle being so unorthodox, I think a lot of people are just ready to enjoy that level of gameplay from here. We've seen he knew exactly how to deal with these woodlines and Mongols just being so strong in this position. So definitely feeling pretty good here for MeomaikA. And guys, we see the next matchup, French versus Delhi. I remember back in the day, people were like, oh, Delhi beats French because armored knights. But this is a pretty tough matchup either way. I think this is not about which counters which. I think this is more a question of who is going to do the most damage to the other player. Are they going to allow the other player to get ahead and destroy the villages? Because from what we've seen here, depending on who has the civilization here, because I know that sometimes these are switched around, French can snowball so fast, but again, so can Delhi.
It really comes down to just how they play the feudal age, right? And who can get more value in that feudal age. Oh man, I'm still just reeling from that last fight. What a game. We got, having a tied series is quite exciting here. We got 2.5 minutes before we dive into Dry Arabia. Boy, you know, I'm just looking back to that last game. There was a point where it felt like CsO had such an edge and then didn't dive. Right as MeomaikA was upgrading his archers into Castle Age, there was kind of a point where he could have dived in under the Kurultai. Maybe he could have won that fight. Decided to respect it. Maybe he respected it a little too much later, because then it came to bite him in the butt when it was sitting in front of his base later. Man, there's always so many interesting what ifs in a game like that, and I'm just impressed with both players so far. It's been a fun one.
especially the fact that we're not getting a 3-0, because I know yesterday was full of 3-0s all around the groups. And to be fair, there were a few upsets, even though the winnings were pretty predictable, but the outcomes, like 3-2s here and there, definitely looking pretty nice between these players. And I'm just happy to see that's going to be the case here as well. We are going to see our favorite map all time, most likely. Twitch chat, I know you guys have been waiting for this. I saw your pleads yesterday. Everyone was like, oh, I love all time. My favorite map. Guys, we saved it for you for today as well. And I hope you're happy. Because if we look at the rest of the draft, Coastal Cliffs is also there. And it's a map where the fights are usually a little bit more intense early on. MeomaikA still has some pretty great civilizations for this. We still have Japan up his sleeve. We have Zushi, which is pretty crazy. But on the same side, CsO has Malians and Rus. So both of these players leaving pretty strong picks for if the series does go a little bit longer. MeomaikA's. I mean, with Japan, you'll already have a pretty spicy pick right there.
I'm looking at Altai. Altai is the map you love to hate, right? CsO has also got Chinese in the back. I could see a Zushi's China matchup on Altai potentially, and we could just have a boom fest. We can just sit, eat some popcorn, and chill for an hour, you know, depending on how that might go. Of course, it could also be Coastal Cliffs coming up, but Dry Arabia. Whammon, if you had to pick right now, which Civ would you rather have in this matchup?
I think French. Purely because I know how crazy the player controlling this one can be. I feel like with French, it's so easy to force a mistake out of your opponent, and that's what CsO is good with. So if I was a betting woman, I would like to be French so that I can ensure that the Delhi man is going to suffer. So guys, we are in here for game 3. MeomaikA on the Delhi, just living his best life up against CsO. The man, the legend. On French. Very nice. We're going to see some knights, boys. I hope you're ready.
Early wheelbarrow coming in for CsO right off the bat here, 45 seconds into the game. Got a couple of villagers on the berries as well, so that was something he prioritized in his build. Just something to note. That's not uncommon for French, of course.
Now, getting that wheelbarrow is definitely something that helps when you're playing against a civilization that has early cavalry itself. So with MeomaikA here, you already have to consider that he's got the Ghazis. The Ghazis are going to be annoying, and you probably need to move your units around a little bit more. But at the same time, it also allows you to get a lot less idle time, which, you know, with Delhi, it's never a problem because they also do get wheelbarrow. But with French, you need this if you just are planning to be able to use that map. And looking at the spawns, I would like to just touch on that for a quick second here. We see that there's a deer pack there to the front side of the base of CsO. Pretty close, but again, it's to the front. It's going to be easily interruptible here by Ghazis if he decides to be a little bit more greedy and try to go on out there. But on the other hand, MeomaikA, he's got both his deer packs on the other side. Like you can see all of them standing there together here. So if he loses control, it's not something he's easily going to be able to pro scout, because we have been seeing Delhi going for that delay pro scout, mostly because upgrades are very slow, yet free, but it does provide that little bit of a food source. On the other side, though, he's got berries to the back. Both the players actually getting a nice little spot there to the back with a berry and a gold, if ever needed. But again, cavalry, cavalry, cavalry. It's not that simple.
Home of the Faith, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, as that has been the meta for quite some time now, being built up with 6. I'm curious, like, does CsO go for pro scouts here? There's an argument to be had that both those deer packs are forward for MeomaikA, and you know that Delhi relies so heavily on food. And on Dry Arabia, there's a good amount of food, but not an abundance like other maps might have. The only tricky thing is if you do that, you're slowing down your pressure in contesting the sacred sites. And so I'm wondering where the trade-off is at, and I'm curious what CsO wants to do here.
This is one of those where I would say you have to be quite reactionary to what your opponent does. And with CsO experiencing what he has experienced the last 2 games, he probably can't take any crazy risks. This is not something where you are going to try and be too greedy with it not paying off. I say this, but those villagers are dangerously close to the gold as well. He can instantly decide to say, hey, maybe we do pro scout. So this, I would not say that this is the crazy game we'll be seeing from CSO. This feels like something that he might need to be a little bit more standard on. Dome of the Faith now quickly coming in, and that is a pretty fast age up for Delhi in general.
I say the villagers on wood makes me feel like he might want to go pro scouts.
Is a lot of villagers though.
That's the kind of what I'm thinking. Like that feels like a pro scouts kind of play, maybe with 4 on wood. I'm curious because and I think there would be some value into it. As for those 4 deer packs from MeomaikA, taking those away from him would be quite the blow. The only thing is you are kind of giving up a little bit of timing on those sacred sites potentially. That might be a trade-off you're okay with. I think the long term, the food issues, and it will be. I'm gonna get it on the head. Professional scouts coming in for CSO. He must be thinking what I'm thinking. If you can take the food away from Delhi, that could be a huge struggle for them later in the game.
The problem with going for pro scouts is you're going to need to be so careful in this early game. And honestly, I am so surprised at what he's doing. But at the same time, MeomaikA hasn't even thought about a stable. He's just living his best life, making scholars right now. So blacksmith being the first building he's going for, this is CSO saying, hey, I know this man might not be going for the usual Ghazis. He doesn't do anything standard. I'm just going to keep an eye, make sure that I don't get surprised by any of this. And honestly, I think the blacksmith first is quite surprising, especially when you consider that your opponent is on a civ that capitalizes on you being greedy.
Oh, I mean, I'd be dropping down to barracks almost immediately if I were MeomaikA, or at least going for the Ghazis. It is very off-putting a little bit to not see that come right out. For CSO, though, I like this play for Pro Scouts, and I'll tell you why. To me, this is him playing to win. He's not, I mean, there's an argument to being careful, but sometimes I've noticed that pro players, and as someone who isn't a pro player and who would probably fall into the same traps, I have noticed as a caster that sometimes players play too conservatively. They play not to lose. CSO here, I like the greed. Actually, and he's going straight for his opponent's tier packs. This is playing to win, and I like the aggression.
And here I was saying this man might not be greedy, but no, he's the greediest goose of them all. Going for, like you said, going all the way out there to try and get a little bit of understanding what's happening over there to see if he can potentially put a scout there in the base and snatch a deer or two. That scout, though, he's learned his lesson already. Now, 2 Ghazi Raiders on the field, 3rd one on their way, as he will find out, hey, this man, he is the greedy goose in the land, trying to get the deer back to his base. So now the knight, though, just providing that very heavy level of pressure that we talked about. It just means he's not going to be able to move out with these Ghazis without being really careful. Spearman now in queue, and this is going to mean he's going to need to leave those bad boys at home to actually handle if there's a night raid coming on out. Or just build more.
Ozzy's trying to catch up here. That sheep is in a little bit of danger. I wonder if he takes his stab on it or if he goes to the actual unit instead. Looks like he's chasing down the scout. Second knight ready to go, though.
Honestly, getting a scout is actually pretty big. Because if you do manage to do so, you're just ensuring that the food is not going to be pouring at the same pace back towards the base of your opponent. You did see that the bro scouting is underway here, as those deer are slowly disappearing from the map, but the Ghazis, they need to go and find a target. CSO, though, with all those deer going to the base, he is just going to be able to make more and more units.
And the tricky thing with Pro Scouts is, like, he can continue to do this throughout the game. He doesn't need to take all the deer right now, as long as he gets them eventually, and he can take them away from MeomaikA eventually. We do see some spears guarding those deer, however, and MeomaikA does not want what is rightfully his to go away. But now the knights just dive the base once they move out. As we see here, looking for the berries, only 1 spear, not enough to really deal with these knights, but CSO will be careful and walk around instead.
MeomaikA not being greedy here, sending the spears out, trying to deny this pro scouting. He's actually keeping them in the base because he knows what the danger is of French. MeomaikA, though, his army is starting to look quite scary. And considering those Ghazis are just a little bit faster, they can do a little bit of damage, I say, as the knights break that poor horse in half, just charging him to death. Poor guy. He had a very short life.
All that training, years of academy training in stable schools, just to fall off your horse and die.
No, we do see with the amount of archers here from CSO, he is looking at responding to those spears. But right now, MeomaikA destroying all the deer in the land, ensuring that this is not going to be a right-click situation for CSO. He's going to need to work if he wants to get the food out there. Because when you're playing against French, the big question is, how long can I keep going before his food runs out? And he's going to slow down with those knights. But the problem is just, he's getting chivalry, so those knights are not going to slow down, even if they take a little beating. Sure, MeomaikA has the healing boys on his side, but when the knights do it themselves, who needs a scholar?
You know, it's kind of interesting that both these civs really do rely on a consistent stream of food to keep doing what they want to do. Delhi, of course, you cut off their food, they just kind of crumple because they get so much free gold and other things. And of course, French, to be able to produce these heavy premium units, needs a supply and a surplus, really, of food coming in for a long time. So they both rely on food as we get a great raid right here. 2 villagers going down in a blink of an eye. Nice little pickup by CSO.
And quickly, just proving that, hey, you look away for a second and it's going to start snowballing. The thing that we have to consider here is CSO, he's French. Those villagers are coming out just a little bit faster. So the villager lead here for CSO is already starting to show its head. More deer being delivered, but we do see those villagers are strapped a little thin, with some of them just standing around thinking about, how am I going to get to that carcass and harvest the meat? MeomaikA now moving out to the deer himself, and honestly, this is probably the best way of denying it. The problem is just, you are playing against a player who has a lot of knights, and with big knights comes big responsibilities. And those responsibilities are going to include towers. The problem is, even with the responsibilities in order, you are still going to be very susceptible to those knights just burning down the towers and actually killing your villagers because they are so chunky. No blacksmith yet from CSO. He's spending every single bit of gold he has. Oh, he does. Never mind. Guys, I'm blind. Whoopsie.
At that free bloomery upgrade. Man, those knights, I'm counting 2 scholars that they took down on their way to sacred sites. Some really good value with these knights. CSO may not have gotten the full value from the pro scouts just yet, but he is still making full use of his heavy units to deal some serious damage. Another one caught out. This one could be going down as well. It's a lot of knights. You almost just take this, I think. Takes the spears down. I'd send some knights after that. You got to get that scholar down. And here he goes, chasing after him. That's going to be number 3 that I've seen on the screen if he can get him. Getting distracted by the Ghazi, though.
This has been an amazing
man, they get
pickup.
distracted.
Yeah,
They get distracted.
One small mistake like that costing you a ton of resources. And very quickly, MeomaikA's chances of taking a pretty decent fight here, it's just getting slimmer and slimmer. Those knights are so scary, and they will just keep charging in, pulling out, healing up. This is just going to be a constant dance, and it feels like there's not an answer here for MeomaikA to actually kill them. Because we see now, every single time CSO has the chance, he charges in, gets the damage done, takes down what he needs, and gets out with all his units alive.
He's doing so good at managing these knights. This is something that high-level players should be able to do, and we're seeing it done almost to perfection. Just moving those knights around the field, being an absolute nuisance. He's picked off 2 of those scholars. He's gotten a lot of value. He's even picked off some spears, and every little bit that's going to keep helping. And we do see MeomaikA is on top of the deer, forcing him out early on those deer, trying to get what he can before they get snatched away from him. As the knights now healing with chivalry, trying to chase down their next targets. The Ghazis, however, outspeed. But I think he likes this fight. He's going to be able to decap the sacred site easily. And archers now coming on the field. This is the second piece. Having something to actually deal with the spears long term. If the knights can get a good fight here, this is going to be a little tenuous as Ghazi and spears walking around trying to decap the site. It's down to halfway. There's just enough archers to be wary, but there's a lot of Ghazis as well. So this becomes a kind of a difficult positioning game now for both players.
Now, the Ghazi Raiders are not doing what we usually see from a bunch of Ghazi Raiders. Being behind your opponent's base and doing some actual raiding. MeomaikA is feeling the pressure here from CSO, and that's the great thing about CSO as a player. He forces you to play the style you are not comfortable doing. And that's exactly what's happening here now. He's the one putting up the pressure. You do not get to dictate the pace of the game, even with the amount of horses you've got on your side. Now, losing yet another scholar. We see that destroyed value now at 2,400 compared to the measly little 50.
Wow, that says... That's the game right there so far. I mean, that's an incredible difference. 2,000, only 50. That's essentially, you've lost a villager. Like that's about it. I mean, that's okay. We lose an archer there. Man, CsO having just so few casualties is incredible as he gets a great hit on these Gazis. Needs to get out in time. Archer's in a precarious spot with the Gazis looping around. Keeps him alive though. Again, the positioning battle going CsO's way.
And a scout paying the price as well as a villager being a little bit far out. Accidentally bound with an army, I assume. Happens to the best of us, MeomaikA. No shame in that. But the Knights now, those boys are looking chonky and they are looking for more and more charges. And this is what I absolutely love to see from CsO. We saw him get +1 melee attack. He knew how important this was going to be with the French Knights. Go in, get the damage done, and get out. Not going to be worried about anything else. And CsO now, he's looking at going castle himself. And honestly, Sockington, I think it's time for us to see a real institute. Or is CsO just going to play it safe and go for the guild hall? But it would be a crime.
I think when you got 23 Knights in the field and you're doing such good work with them, I think you have to go for the institute. I mean, you could go guild hall, but it's like, why? Like, I think you could maybe win this in castle. You're doing so good. You know your opponent's going to run out of food. And behind this, CsO's doing a good job of getting a farm transition going. Oh man, that one knight is going to pay for the price, but then allow his fellow brethren to go and charge the 2 scholars down. Some incredible value there with the sacrifice. Oh, but the spears come in to save them just at the right time. CsO not willing to sacrifice too many knights to this.
And losing 2 knights might not seem that big, but the fact that you're losing 2 who would be Royal Institute knights, that is what makes a little bit of a difference here. Now, the problem is these knights are still just running around free, and with MeomaikA not having a single scout, he doesn't know where these boys are going to be going. Now guild hall coming in. CsO is playing it safe. I'm so surprised.
He was playing to win earlier, and now he's playing not to lose. It probably is the right call. Oh, this is a huge find. This is so many vills out in the open, nowhere to run. The war crimes ensue as he gets a wraparound running straight through them. Multiple villagers going down. This is the game right here. This is so important. So many dead villagers. The casualties are enormous. The Knights not letting up. And this is what French does best.
And the villagers just moving out into a position where they were not going to be protected by any spear. At the same time, though, MeomaikA is looking for similar damage. He is under that TC, he's under this guild hall, and yes, it goes up. But now the villagers are going to be dying on this side as well. The problem is just he's going to need to kill a lot more. And right now, we can see it's on the side of CsO when it comes to how many villagers have paid the price. These Gazi Raiders, they're going to pick off a handful more, but the wall is there to protect. We say build the wall, protect those poor villagers, but they do make it through and live to tell the tale another day. Going straight onto the gold, all those juicy little upgrades.
Man, what a base trade that turned into be. Goodness, CsO is probably just kicking himself right now that he did such a great job there, but ends up taking a big blow right back. This is like 2 heavyweights just duking it out in the ring, just exchanging heavy punches. But now the tricky thing is there's still just enough spears and a lot of Gazis. You don't have a great military strength in numbers. If you're CsO, your knights are it. And this is where it gets dangerous, where MeomaikA's in the base, has the ability to torch down your buildings, has that healing capability there as well. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? And he needs archers. He's got none on the field right now. This could be dangerous for CsO just because MeomaikA has the numbers.
MeomaikA is looking for the rest of those villagers. He knows where they went to, and he's going to go find them. But at the same time, so is CsO. He knows that he needs to keep doing damage. He needs to find a motivator to get CsO to come back to his base. But unfortunately for him, he doesn't need to come back. He has enough spears to defend this. Now, looking for a few more vills. Ooh, these Gazi Raiders, the numbers are just insane. We've got 34 here. Those boys do look like they're ready to be healed up. But another knight dive coming on in, and a villager about to pay the price yet again.
He's going to go for the landmark snipe. He's got the numbers to do this. He's got 83 military on the field. MeomaikA is going to snipe the landmarks down before CsO can do anything about it. That's going to be the game.
If MeomaikA wins this off a landmark snipe, this could definitely make history against doing this against one of the most aggressive players in the game we have right now. And these guys going for the house first because we want to make sure we pop cap our opponent. And at the same time, CsO says, nah, I'm going to keep killing those villagers. They build a wall at the speed of light, I say, as they're all just dying. Sockington, they're all dead.
What is MeomaikA doing? Just focus the landmarks. Just focus the landmarks. They're right there. You've got the numbers. You've got the numbers. He took down 1, but he hasn't committed to the final 2. I think he could do it. He's got 32 Gazis and 42 spears. Take down the town center. It's right there. Why did he back off? Why is he not diving it?
He is looking for more villager kills, thinking that this is the way to be back in the game. But the problem is now there's men-at-arms. Or men-at-arm right now. They will be arms pretty soon. Ah, there we go. The arms have arrived. And now finally, this is not going to be the easy push that he would have had just a few seconds ago. And now MeomaikA has also no way of getting castle himself. Not that he needs to, because he's on 26 villagers right here. He is getting his, what is that, siege engineering? So this is going to mean he's going to be able to make a ram or two, but did he wait too long? The 3rd men-at-arm is here. But is this going to be enough? I think he's thrown this.
I think he might have thrown this. He had a golden opportunity that he just chucked aside. The indecision. I think if he had just gotten straight on that town center, he would have had it. I think it would have been close, but I think he would have had it. It looked really good. Now, looks like CsO has just enough that maybe you can still win this game, but it's not going to be the easy, quick little snipe that it was going to be. Looking for another dive, going in. Getting a good surround here. Those men-at-arms, how good are they going to be? It should still be a pretty good cleanup.
Yes, especially with the Ghazi Raiders being able to deal with these armored units. Now, again, he has that same opening. Not as convincing as the previous time, and we do have a Knight Raid at the back of the base as well on MeomaikA's side. He needs to focus what he can here and do the damage he needs. Oh, and it's looking like he will be able to do it, but instead he keeps going for farms here. He's not focusing on these landmarks, getting a villager here or there, trying to do the eco damage, but every single time he wastes on this, the more Louis has a chance of making it back here. Now, losing a little bit of scholars here too, it's just feeling so tough. More knights there at the back going down. CsO's resources are in shambles, and the Ghazi Raiders have found some villagers that they've been dreaming about killing. Problem is just, is this still just going to be the same mistakes again and again?
I'm at the point now where if I were MeomaikA playing, I probably would have just Control-Shift-A to grab every unit I have and just snipe the landmarks. Like, I think he has the numbers. He could have done it. Like, the fact is, the problem is his military's been split in different places. He's losing he's like half winning these little engagements across the map. If he just coalesced into one big push and just went right down the middle, he'd have this. He has the numbers. Instead, he's just kind of letting CsO hang around, making it tricky. Losing his own vills right now. It's 48 to 27 villager kills. We're still seeing more fights. Villagers fighting alongside knights. Spears joining the fray. This is just absolute chaos and pandemonium.
It's not very easy as the French to surrender. You know, historically, we are a civilization who loves to fight. And this is going to be the same for this video game. And today, we are not going to go down without a fight. You can keep raiding me, but it is not a problem. I will stay in this and get some archers, not a problem.
So just like that, the French does not surrender. So as we heard there from the Frenchman just coming into my microphone, thank you there, French consultant. And the pressure will just keep going. But honestly, I feel like he did enough damage here. MeomaikA may have done enough damage here to still be able to take this, but he's still not sure how to land that killing blow.
Yeah, man, that window. I just feel like now it's tricky because if CsO stabilizes here, he's got double the economy you do now because you've taken so many raids. Mm-hmm. So if CsO can just hold out, stabilize, it's going to be 42 villagers to 25. Mm-hmm. The military numbers are skewed, but he still has 7 knights on the field. All MeomaikA has right now is 33 spears and his scholars. That's not enough to land a killing blow at this point in game. I think CsO brings this one back. It might be gritty and rough going, but at this point, it feels like the window was there and MeomaikA kind of threw the victory out with it.
I'm honestly just surprised he hasn't been able to just do yet another push, because now with all those spears he had in the base, he was going to be able to do something with it. He was going to be able to build a ram or to just do a little push, but no. He's just not ready to commit to this. I think after this game, MeomaikA will watch this and he'll be like, oh my goodness, I would have been able to eliminate this man. Yes.
He's going to feel so terrible about this loss. And I feel bad for him a little bit if this is how it's going to go. Like, that was just such a window. I thought when he started going, he took down one of the 2 landmarks. That's the thing that's killing me is he was there. He had it. He did one of the 3. If he just taken the town center out, it would have been game. I mean, there would have been just no coming back. And now we look at it with all the kills, everything going on, the back and forth, going for the vills instead while your base is equally being raided, just wasn't the way because French is going to outrage you. And we see that here, that the military count may be in favor of MeomaikA, but the economy count sure isn't.
This is such a tough spot for a lot of players who don't play in these level of games consistently. Because if you think about MeomaikA, he hasn't had the tournament experience that CsO has. A lot of these top players will be able to say like, oh, I could do X or Y. But this is just pure inexperience, and that this is a really good sign. The fact that MeomaikA was able to take this, he just didn't know how to close it out in that moment.
Yeah.
So yes, he's going to rewatch this, he's going to learn from it, and possibly next time, he will be the guy who then goes for the landmarks. So that's why it's so... Yeah, and the thing is, that's why these tournaments are so important for them to be able to qualify into the top 16 and make it out into the top 8. Those are very, very different worlds, and MeomaikA has taken the first step. So already showing that he can take down an amazing player like CsO.
Yeah, this was definitely MeomaikA's to win, and CsO is very, very lucky in the spot he's in right now. Like, and I'm almost certain that CsO knows it. Like, he was basically trying to go for a base trade. Somehow, he probably knew that he was just dead, and then just kept raiding just because you never know. And then, man, for MeomaikA just to not click. You know, I've seen in this EGC Masters Fall tournament, I have noticed a couple times games have come down to a single click. I've seen a couple games. I think a week ago I was casting with Crackety, and there was a couple games that it was like 1 click away felt like the difference. And here, essentially 2 clicks away. 2, you grab your units, click, click. I mean, that was the game, and MeomaikA just didn't make those 2 absolutely critical clicks. And here we are now, 5.5, 10 minutes later, looking at what might be a gradual slog.
The final push will happen the moment he sees that age up, though, and all of a sudden MeomaikA is still raiding. Now, the thing is, from MeomaikA's perspective, he may think that he's killed a lot more villagers than he actually has. So this doesn't feel as stressful to him as it does to the rest of us with God Vision. So you guys in Twitch chat, you know the situation. But MeomaikA here is like, I killed a lot of villagers. That was a lot of idle time. I took down the army. I got this. So now he ages up. CsO tells himself, all right, I'm not going to wait for Delhi's upgrades to kick in. But also, Delhi's upgrades has not started, so that is none of his concern at the moment. Delhi not clicking the upgrades for these spears is going to be quite tough, because those take a very long time to kick in. But the Lancers are now the choice he goes for. He's going to fight night-on-night action. Now the upgrades have been clicked.
At this point, if you look at the numbers, it doesn't look as bad as it was for MeomaikA. He's got 38 villagers to 50. Might be a little bit of idle time there from CsO. 54 to 46 military. That's the scary part, is the army value is just so heavily favored for CsO at this point in the game.
Getting the +2 ranged attack, it's about to hit as well. This could be the thing he's waiting for too, because getting that on the huge amount of archers against a major army of just spears, that's going to hurt quite a bit. The Lancers, though, they're looking for a charge themselves because they know we could possibly change this quite a bit, especially considering that those knights are not protected by archers currently. But CsO, he's not going to take any risks. He pulls back. He's going to go and play the safe, for now at least. He does need to ensure that he does not take any unfavorable fights, because the transition into the late game is going to look pretty tough.
You know, there's still a world where MeomaikA can come back and win this. It's not over. There's been enough downtime now since all the craziness that, looking at things, I mean, I think CsO definitely has the edge here at this point in the game, but this is a far cry from being absolutely over. CsO didn't exactly land a killing blow either. So MeomaikA is still in a chance. I mean, he needs a couple things to break his way here. But if they do, MeomaikA still has a chance as he takes a dive here into the archers right now. Takes a good charge. Spears getting on top of the knights. This is what he needs. If he can get a good fight here, this could swing the tide once again. Knights trying to reposition. Spears on top of the archers. Archers doing a lot of damage though. Needs to get something on top. The wraparound, however, happening. Archers starting to go down. But do the Knights survive? There's just one too many heavy units here. MeomaikA starting to run out of steam. Knights remain fairly unscathed, and MeomaikA is going to have to just pull back. This is going to be a sweep, and that will be the game. CsO does come through on top. What a crazy game in this series now.
And the base trade of Doom, as I'll dub this one, that was a pretty tough one to watch back. I think MeomaikA is going to be making a big mental note here, because next time, he's not going to miss that timing. We can see that military value lead of his just slowly shrinking down as the time went on here. I know that CsO was also drowning in relics for a bit here, so he definitely was capitalizing on that map control that he got back, but wonderfully played by MeomaikA, at least for the first while, and CsO just showing us he's a master of survival.
You know, that one kind of played out like a traditional 5-act play where the climax is in Act 3, and then you get done with Act 3, and you're like, wow, that was so exciting. And you still have 2 whole more acts to go, and you're like, well, now what? And it's just kind of like the falling action, the resolution. It's kind of a letdown from Act number 3. That one just kind of simmered away after the crazy shenanigans that happened in the middle there. What a game. I just, you know, I really think it came down to the fact that CsO started raiding the villagers, and I think that spooked MeomaikA to the point where he thought he needed to start doing the same, where I don't think he quite grasped that the villagers were pointless at that point. He didn't need villagers anymore. He had the edge. He could have just torched the 2 buildings and won. I think though the counter raids from CsO would just kind of spark that like adrenaline rush in the back of MeomaikA's head to try and go for the vills instead. But man, did it cost him. That was just such a close point. This is going to be a game that I think people should take notes on and remember that sometimes, I know we play not to lose at times in tournaments like this, but sometimes you just got to send it, and you got to know when to send it, and just Control-Shift-A, send everything and go for the landmark snipe. You can win that way, even at these high level tournaments.
And MeomaikA actually having a shot here against CsO is wonderful. I think this just shows us how the community is growing. Because CsO, this man has been an absolute menace to these top players, breaking into the top 8 quite a few times now. I mean, even his LAN performances has been pretty wild. But now, guys, we have to look at what is next. And what's next is Coastal Cliffs. Ladies and gents, we have Zushi and China going to be facing off against one another on a very aggressive map that we see a lot of pro scouting on 2 civilizations. We see a lot of pro scouting on. So how are we feeling about this matchup there, Mr. Sockerton?
I'm thinking we're going to see some pro scouts. I think you nailed it. These 2 civs just always seem to do that when they're facing each other. I think I like Zushi a little bit earlier at first, and then as the game goes on, I like China a little bit more. It's tough on Coastal Cliffs. I think it's a little smaller though, so I'm curious if that maybe gives an edge to like Zushi if they want to do something a little more aggressive earlier. But I think you're right. I think pro scouts is going to be a battle for the resources, and it might be a bit of a slow-paced game to start, but we'll see. Obviously with MeomaikA in the mix, there's been nothing regular about almost any of these 3 games we've seen so far, and so I have, even though this seems like the most straightforward matchup, I have a hard time believing it's going to be actually straightforward.
Yeah, the thing is, the pro scouting option is there, but when you know your opponent is doing it, how do you usually beat pro scouts? Well, you just go for something that does damage to someone being a greedy pro scouting goose, and you go for a fast castle into lances that never ever stop. The Feudal Age spearmen barely touch them. So see, that's the problem in a matchup such as this. When you know that your opponent has the same type of cards that you do, except for they don't have that fast castle button that you get to press. So I think this one could be MeomaikA's decision. But then again, maybe MeomaikA just goes for Zhuganu all in or something, or he decides to go for a spearman rush. We don't know.
He definitely
the guy's
could.
wild.
With Zushi, that's definitely on the table. Like I said, like a little earlier, I think I favor them just a bit in this matchup. If the game goes long and they both pro scouts and they both end up in Castle Age going late, it could be anyone's game, but I think China has just a little bit better in the toolbox to work with. But yeah, MeomaikA can surprise us. Right now, CsO with Game Point trying to take the final game as we dive into game number, what is this? Going to be game number 4. CsO hoping to close things out. MeomaikA hoping to keep his game running, hoping to maybe move on and play in Altai after this one if he can pull out the win.
sheep counter is still getting ready to show us all that loot. Oh, very nice. Pretty evenly split right now. These guys going to be snacking on them sheep pretty soon as we hear those sheep bells going off. Now, so far looking pretty good here for both of these players. Pretty evenly split. No one got a nice little batch there. But we have to ask ourselves the very, very important question. I know you guys are sitting here and you're like, yes, when are they answering the question? The question is the meditation garden question. Where do we put our meditation garden? There are some pretty okay spots here for the gold. But aside from that, I actually don't know if this is not the juicy spawn that gives you the juiciest meditation garden out of it.
Yeah.
Yes, you could go for a little bit of wood, but you also don't want to move it too far out. So that seems to be a pretty safe spot. A little bit of berries, a little bit of gold. Definitely not want to put it out there.
Yeah, I think vodka might have a spot right there. A couple of those straggler trees giving you a little bit of wood as well. That might not be the worst choice. If you can get those berries clipped in that with the gold, with the trees, that might be a pretty good spot. I mean, those stragglers really doing a lot of work. Of course, right there could be an option too.
Twitch chat had a really good point here. And when I say Twitch chat, I mean Kiljardi, who's a little bit above the average Twitch chatter. It might be the other landmark. As this is
Very well could
MeomaikA.
be.
MeomaikA, I'm surprised he didn't villager rush. This feels like something. Where's the MeomaikA we know and love? So we'll see if he decides to go for something else like the Zhangyan Tower. For those of you who haven't seen that landmark in about 600 years, it gives you free units when you build production buildings. And honestly, to me, that sounds like a MeomaikA type of recipe. And I don't know if I'm interested in tasting any of that.
It's not, I mean, the map is smaller, but it's not exactly an easy rush distance either. You know, the TCs aren't exactly close. So maybe he goes for that. Maybe it would be the fun choice. You know, it'd be the really fun, entertaining choice to see. Maybe not the best choice. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what he wants to do here. Right now, it looks as though it could be like a Pro Scouts kind of build. We'll see. He's going to drop down the meditation gardens.
Disappointed. MeomaikA, come on, man. The whole of Twitch chat. We are sitting here and right now, we are in shambles. I cannot believe we just got the meta. Disgusting. But unfortunately, this is going to be a standard enough game. But also, you want to play a pretty safe choice here when you're playing against CSO. This is match point for him. You need to be a little bit more thoughtful when it comes to all of this. Now Meditation Garden's coming in, and CSO, what is he following up with? Can we see that villager split? Just so we can keep a little bit of an eye on what these boys are cooking.
Onto the wood and onto the wood. That feels like Pro Scouts to my eyes.
That's a lot of villagers on gold there, but yes, you're right.
That's
It is
true.
probably going to be a pretty safe one, all things considered. As we do have wood being supervised here as well, you want to make sure that you get as much to keep those options open, both of them leaving a significant amount on gold. For China, even just 2 could give you that Pro Scouts in no time. But he gets horticulture. Okay, never mind, guys. MeomaikA's back.
Okay.
He got horticulture. No Pro Scouts needed. The man is going for food gathering speed, like any reasonable man, of course.
I'm curious the thought process behind that. I'm genuinely curious as to what the thought process behind that choice is. He is really heavy on gold. Like that, you were right. That didn't look like the classic Pro Scouts build. Meanwhile, CSO is doing what I would look like as a Pro Scouts build. MeomaikA, though, he's got Wheelbarrow in the queue now as well. He's got something else in mind.
And the thing is, when CSO scouts this, he sees, okay, you've got this much on gold. We've got 6 on gold. You're probably going fast castle. And CSO might be a little hesitant to follow through on the plan he was thinking about. But at the same time, now he has 11 on food. He has 6 on gold. And it looks like this is going to be the follow-up into a faster castle. He did delay himself quite a bit by not going directly for that. So I'm quite surprised to see him going for 2 of the upgrades instead of just going for the pure fast castle that we do see out of Zushi so often.
Yeah, going for Wheelbarrow felt a little much. Like it's still a quick castle, but I don't know if I'd say it's a fast castle, you know? Like, I mean, it's going to be fast castle, but yeah, he could have gotten up like 7.5 minutes if he really wanted to. Slowing himself down just a little bit. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm a decent enough player, but I'm not going to be good enough to be able to say the intricacies of why you do that over just going for the fast castle. I'd be curious what MeomaikA's reasoning is behind that. But CSO, of course, is going to be going for just the pro scouts, which could determine things. Now, there's a window, though, that MeomaikA with the fast castle can do something about these pro scouts before they even get going. So he's going to be dropping down here pretty quickly. Waiting to see what it's going to be.
People need to consider that Zushi's age up is a little bit cheaper as well. So this is going to hit pretty quickly. He doesn't have enough for a stable just yet. So and he's also pulling off gold pretty quickly. Is he going for the bald build? No. Oh, guys, we're getting the bald boys. Are you ready? Everyone, strap into your seats. I hope you have your safety gloves on. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the bald boys going to be dominating this field. And honestly, I expected fast castle into lancers. A little bit of a horseplay under the TC. Who knows? But no. This man, he's going to be doing kung fu, tai chi, and every other martial art he can muster up, as these monks are trained in everything.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. I am fascinated to see the bald guys come out and do their thing. You know, I got to say, this is a unit. Personally, the first time I encountered it back when Zushi was a brand new civ, I just kind of went in blind. I didn't actually do a lot of research. I just kind of started playing. I saw this pop out at me. I started making crossbows thinking that should do it. I kept looking at the unit trying to figure out what counters these things, and I got swarmed. This build actually got me, and I was so embarrassed that I just lost to a bunch of religious units. They are kind of tricky to deal with.
No. But guys, hold your horses. This man went for the Shaolin Monastery, and everyone, definitely me and Twitch chat, we were all like, pog, this is happening. But it seems like he's only made one, now going for the second one. But Lancers is still the play, because if you see the Shaolin Monastery, you usually feel a little bit confused and conflicted about how am I going to handle this. But now he's getting himself ready to handle this, and Lancers are about to arrive as well. The thing is, CSO is going to be able to get his own Lancers, so these are not going to hit the same way as they usually would, because there will be some units to counter this. But Shaolin monks, they are going straight for the relics, bringing home anything they can, while the Lancer is about to land on gold. We do not want to miss that Lancer landing on gold. Okay, there we go. Lancer, gold.
Oh, gets a good hit on the Imperial official. So in the end, Wham, and you were right. It is going to be a fast castle into Lancers. Just a little bit of a roundabout way of getting there.
Yeah, he's just keeping me on my toes. MeomaikA teaching us all the new builds. I'm busy writing this down. Just be like, hey, is this actually how you're supposed to play Zushi? Wow.
He's going to get probably 4 of the 5 relics doing this. Which is a pretty good split.
It is, because you're forcing your opponent to make Lancers himself, to keep making units, because he needs to respond to yours, while you're just sitting back letting the bald men pick up every single relic they want. Now, we can see that the sacred site has been activated with the Shaolin monks, so this is going to tell CSO, hey, these relics are a thing of the past, because you are not going to be getting them. They're already in the base. So 2 already secured, third one on his way now. And the Lancers not landing yet, but will soon.
My only concern for MeomaikA here is food going forward. Now, obviously, once you get like the Grand Ray transitions going up and stuff, then you're chilling. But you still have to make that pivot at some point. And with the Pro Scouts going for CSO right now, he's going to get his 2 deer packs. Once he gets those all into his base, he's going to start looking outwards, and that forward deer pack for MeomaikA is probably going to be the first one to go. He does have that back deer pack, so I guess MeomaikA could get that quickly and kind of stave off the farm transition, but I am a little worried about long-term, like, how do you manage? Because Pro Scouts, you kind of just let your opponent go for the Pro Scouts. You got the quick castle, and you've now taken the relics because of that. That's the punishment you've inflicted, but is that enough to counterbalance what Pro Scouts gives you as Chinese?
We'll find that out pretty quickly, because right now, the food is pretty solid from both sides, because, of course, MeomaikA did get a ton of sheep. But those bad boys are about to run out, and he's going to need to be moving out. There is that solid deer pack at the back, so he's going to be able to fall back on this. We do see that, yes, the berries have been depleted. We need to think of something else very fast, and they are going straight for the deer. The problem is he doesn't have the wood to be able to easily transition in the future, and now more stables are added here from CSO. And ladies and gentlemen, we've seen this man on nights, and we've seen him against MeomaikA's little villages out on the map. This is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, that's a lot of villagers in that deer pack, and there's just enough Lancers for CSO, 10 of them to be precise. That'd be a pretty devastating blow. I think the idea here is MeomaikA wants to eat those deer now, deny the pro scout advantage he could get, and then maybe move on to some farms later as we see a bald man goes down, killed by those 10 Lancers I was talking about.
And those 10 Lancers staying in a single group, which is actually quite surprising after watching CSO's raid armies. But at the same time, he's really good at charging in, doing the damage, and getting right out. The numbers are increasing, both sides here, just going for that pure Lancer Palace. The problem is, I kind of trust CsO's Lancer control a little bit more than MeomaikA's here, just based off of his historic performance on this. Now you can see instantly, they go for a gap, they get a charge in, a little bit of damage done onto the boy, but he will survive to tell the tale to the rest of the Lancers in the base, and the boys are coming to join the party as well. He just needs to keep an eye on these, and he doesn't have a lot of scouts to be doing that, like CSO at least has to.
Oh, he's got the deer. He has found him. Thankfully, some Lancers immediately come in for MeomaikA to defend. But now that he knows that's up there, I bet he's going to try and find a way to sneak some more Lancers and get some more damage.
And it looks like that ticking time bomb we talked about may just be getting more imminent because of it. Now, what I absolutely would love to see is when does CSO say, okay, I need to transition into something else to try and find damage? Because you know that with Zushi, they just have better horses eventually with the upgrades, but it looks like the fight is happening already, and the Lancers are falling one by one, both sides. I don't know which one is going to come out ahead, but the scout goes down and, you know, GG.
Defender's advantage coming through massively from MeomaikA right there. I mean, he's taking that fight right in front of the stable where more Lancers are popping out by the second. That was the difference in that fight right there, because otherwise it was, like you said, pretty dead even, hard to tell who was going to come out on top. But again, defender's advantage is playing key for MeomaikA thus far.
And the food is running a bit low. As we know with the professional scouts, you probably need more than one scout carrying those around. One of the scouts on CSO's side is constantly with the army, and it was taken out. So this one single scout bringing deer back to the base is not enough to sustain all of the villagers that he has split on food already. So now he keeps making Lancers. He's floating a little bit of resources here, maybe giving himself an option or two. But this is going to start getting a little bit hairy soon, as CSO is going to be able to go for that Song Dynasty if he so chooses. But right now, that's just resources in the bank until he decides.
Putting a lot of villagers on wood. CSO probably looking ahead towards that farm transition that he's going to need to make. Getting the wood upgrades and stuff. Yep, getting all of his upgrades. Spending what he has. Actually, his macro is really good. He's spent just about everything he's got. Meanwhile, MeomaikA with quite a bit of upgrades on his own, right? Trying to take advantage of the resources around him. You see he's moving out to the berries, moving out to things, trying to get some stuff going. Again, food is kind of the crux here. Is like, if you blink and make a farm transition at the worst time, that could be really bad. But also, if you can get it up early and kind of get going with it, that could be such a boon later on as well.
And that fourth relic now finally finding a home. Oh, I was going to say finding a home, but there's no home for it yet. He's just moving it into a different position here. Probably thinking about putting that down, but he doesn't have any wood income just yet to build a monastery. So, MeomaikA running around with a pretty risky relic. He keeps it safe in the base to just make sure that the dot stays on the map. Moving out now onto the deer forward. And forward deer, yes, that is a food source. However, he's still playing against CSO. He needs to be careful about this. There's one tower at the back who can help defending, and a scout that sees a pretty massive army approaching. Now, MeomaikA, he does have the advantage here. These Lancers are going to be able to scare off most armies.
Army value is in favor of MeomaikA by a little bit here. 28 Lancers to 19. CSO now starting to move into crossbows. It's been all monolithic for MeomaikA, just one unit. Dives in right on top of the villagers as well. They're actually going to try and help fight. They can pull out the shivs. The civil defense force is called up by their emperor. This is a tough fight here. MeomaikA does have the numerical advantage, but defender's advantage going to CSO. The civilians are just going down in droves, however. 10 down immediately.
And that is just the price of ensuring your Lancers had the backup. But CSO, it seems like he has sacrificed so many. He is going to be able to clean these up. But MeomaikA still has a pretty steady stream of food, though. The problem is, there can be a counterattack. those villagers are still very far forward, and they are going to be quite susceptible to these lancers. But the backup lancers will be making their way out there. The problem is now CSO is getting spearmen, so all of a sudden those lancers are not going to have the power they had earlier. Now the villagers should be moving back. He knows these guys are coming, or is he going to use his villagers to fight the fight just like CSO did?
Oh gosh, like at that point, like you traded a bunch of your lancers for 17 villager kills. Are you willing to give up the same amount? I mean, most of them are just kind of idle. Moving over to the board, it looks like right now. Can he win this fight? It looks like he's got just enough in the tank to keep this away at bay. And CSO is going to call GG's.
That was phenomenal. We're getting a 5-game series between CSO and newcomer into S tier MeomaikA. Absolutely wonderful. Nobody got stoned this game. I'm actually quite surprised. MeomaikA also had...
feel like... Sorry, I almost feel like CSO, like, I guess looking at the villager count, I think that's probably why he called it. It just felt like it was a little premature, though, in these tournaments. Sometimes we see people play it out a little bit longer. But down 17 vills, not able to get any damage in return, like you were mentioning, could have happened. Man, I guess this one goes the distance.
It does, and it leaves open a little bit of a spicy match for the next one as well, as we have our favorite map, Twitch chat. Are you ready? I know everyone's sitting at the edge of their seats. They're like, yes, they gave it to us. Guys, we have Altai coming on up. But before we do, let's look at these beautiful fights. We see that defender's advantage fight that CSO took very willingly. Such a risky move here. And with the villagers also coming to fight this out, usually when you get raided by a horseman, this is an okay idea. But lancers, they just hit kind of differently. And the villagers, they learned that lesson pretty quickly. None left to actually tell the next villagers to not do the same, but at least this was a lesson learned for the rest of Twitch chat as well.
Yeah, if CSO could have maybe turned around and done, like, we thought for a second it might be the same outcome, right? He was going to go and have another fight and then take down 17 villagers. Like, there was kind of that moment where MeomaikA wasn't retreating his vills, but CSO just unable to counterpunch, and so I guess just says, hey, 17 villagers down in one quick raid. GG next. That's going to be it. And so now we get Japanese and Rus on Altai, everyone's favorite map. So I guess we strap in and get ready for an interesting game here. I don't even know what to expect anymore out of Altai and MeomaikA with Japanese. I mean, for all I know, ninjas are on the table. I don't expect them, but at this point, maybe I should.
Now, MeomaikA is the kind of guy who would pull out a little bit of a ninja play, but when you're up against Rus, it does feel a little bit different, because with Rus, this feels so wrong to say, but is this the one time that Boss Castle in a pro series would actually work? Because no, never mind, you can't. Because if Japan, no, there's so many things happening in this head right now. The problem is Japan has so many cards. They get to go for a feudal aggression. They get to make 6 million Yumis into your base. They can go fast castle themselves. And you, Mr. Rus, you're not going to have time to go for all your horse archers. They're going to have enough units to handle it, especially with those Yumis. But then again, MeomaikA likes to be greedy himself. Is he going to be the kind of guy who goes for a fast castle, tries to greed out a little bit, or is he going to put up that pressure in feudal? Because I think over the last few tournaments, players have learned I cannot let the Rus go fast castle. It is, and if he does, I need to punish him. I need to be around his base, and I need to do that damage. So yes, Altai is the kind of map where you can wall off and you can delay it for yourself. The question is just, is MeomaikA going to allow it?
I'm done predicting what MeomaikA is going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to get it wrong no matter what I say. So I mean, if I just say the most outrageous thing, maybe then I might get somewhat closer to his crazy cool plays. He has some cool cards up his sleeve. I do think it's interesting we see Rus, and we haven't talked much about the draft really, but see Rus get through and not banned is very interesting to me, because so often it's Rus and China are the first two banned more often than not. In fact, this whole draft on both sides is very fascinating to me. We haven't talked a whole lot about it. Rus is just such a good civ, and so I just kind of expect when Rus gets through, it's going to win, but that hasn't always been the case. Despite Rus being banned almost all the time, it is still a beatable civ. So we'll see how this plans out, especially on Altai. That's such a... I just don't see Altai too often, so jumping in on this one, I'm very curious how both players play it.
Now, I know Roos was banned for the majority of the previous tournaments, but from yesterday's games that we casted, I actually think Roos was let through most of the time because servers like China, House of Lancaster, and I'm surprised I assume MeomaikA also banned Eubits. There's been some really spicy plays from those as well, but China on his side too. A lot of people have been favoring the other civilizations because it feels like a lot of these top level players, they figured out how to deal with Roos. Not saying Roos is a great one to deal with, but it definitely has not had the same prowess as we saw 2 tournaments ago. I see in Twitch chat someone asking, why was Roos banned? Roos was just in a really good spot where they could sit back in their base, do absolutely nothing, and make units that kill your whole army going into castle. So now with this more aggressive meta, that is not something that we're seeing as much. But guys, going in on Altai, get yourselves ready, ladies and gentlemen. We have a game. And honestly, the hunting cabin all the way out here on the deer pack, it's not going to generate all the gold we usually see, but the bounty from those deer, it does feel pretty decent.
Yeah, I think that's the right play. And you still are generating some passive gold, but then the drop-off gold for the bounty is definitely worth it here. Man, going the distance, game number 5. First series of the day, and here we are like 2 hours later. Both these players putting on just an incredible show for us today. And now we get to see one of the most hated maps of all time, an Altai. You know, can I just confess something to you, Emin, real quick?
Yes.
When I was a brand new Gold 1 player a couple years back in this game, this was one of my favorite maps in the map pool. I've repented since. But I used to love playing this map. I used to always play English. Of course, you know, I also always play English all the time as a brand new Gold 1 player, new to the game. And I loved this map. I loved playing on this map. Now I've since learned and learned better and have learned to not enjoy it as much. That said, it does make for some interesting games every now and then.
Now, it feels like Sokotin is bearing his soul here as I actually got to conk again recently with English on this map. So the dream is not dead, Sokotin. We can still enjoy Altai. We just need to make English meta again.
Oh boy.
What I like to see here is that CSO has not queued up a second scout from that hunting cabin, though. This is something very unusual from Roos, but we have been seeing a little bit of a different playstyle recently in the tournament games. Yesterday, we also saw one of the Roos players not going for a second hunting cabin. And in this case now, we see no second scout, but yes, a second hunting cabin. So we're still getting all these things served to us on a fresh, nice, warm platter of memes, dreams, and goal machines. I don't know. It just feels like Roos still has a little bit of variety. We don't need to just go one-dimensional. But now the age up is getting close, as we do see the food is a little high, because obviously he didn't make that extra scout, so he does have that little bit of food in the bank. Is it just going to be ready to sell when he starts that age up himself? But now, Golden Gate is coming on out with only 3 villagers. He's a patient man.
Meanwhile, Oka Township, we take a look at that on the other side, sitting on the gold right there. Remember how I said we might get ninjas? I was kind of joking, but I also kind of wasn't, because I know MeomaikA can just kind of do whatever he wants. It looks like we're getting ninjas.
Now, old Roos would not mind this, because old Roos and responsible Roos would put their hunting cabins in the range of a TC. It would put their houses in the range of a TC. And it would probably be a little bit safer with regards to the deer, push it a little bit closer. But no. Those are very susceptible to a little bit of a ninja play. The house is outside the range. You could easily start torching that down. The deer that you will no longer have is just going to be... These villagers will just go to sheep, which is perfectly fine. But the hunting cabin, yet again, also going to be under duress. And still, no scouts are being made. And we're already up to 400 food yet again. And honestly, Sokotin, I have no explanation for that. And I don't know if Twitch chat does either. Guys, we have all the pro players in the chat. Please tell us what is happening, y'all.
I think the answer is that Roos is very good. Roos is very good. I'm just so pleased to see MeomaikA actually just lean into the bit a little bit and go for the ninjas. And I'm curious if CSO has even seen this yet, if he's scouted out this landmark or not. Like like ninjas, I kind of go back and forth. Like it's just people don't play it very often because they're just not that great on land maps like this. A little more effective on water maps. But if you can get the jump on someone with it, I guess you can make it work. I would not be doing this landmark if I were MeomaikA though. But I'm excited to see it. This is the fun way to play. Maybe not the optimal way to play, but we'll see as the first ninja immediately teleports in and starts hitting the villager. And if CsOH didn't know before, he definitely knows now. Down a villager, the disable on the hunting cabin just to get a little extra. Love to see it. And now the sabotaging ninja doing his best to just annoy the heck out of CsOH.
And this is not going to be the only ninja. The second one is underway. The thing is now, CsOH, he is not going for pro scouts. I was completely, honestly, again, not on the bingo card, but definitely fast castle. This could be interesting. The thing is, usually fast castle is a pretty safe move if you have your food source, and he does have enough sheep. So this for CsOH might actually be quite all right. Because usually the split of villages also significantly different at this stage because you want to get that wood to get those archery ranges out. But this man, he's going raw castle, as raw as you get. That village already rebuilding the house there. He knows what they're going to be needing soon, as those ninjas are not going to get shut down today. They will be in range of doing some significant damage to a villager there if they go and drop off the food yet again.
That house just barely survives. Just absolute annoyance. What a nuisance MeomaikA is making himself. Love to see it. I am a little concerned once CsOH gets up to Castle Age, how MeomaikA is going to deal with this, because the problem with ninjas is that you're losing out on your economic advantages as Japanese. Having the free farms and the free drop-off, just the amount of things you get from the other landmark is so good. But ninjas are fun, you know, and I'm here for it. So if it works, it works, and I'll just be the happier for it. As CsOH getting very close to Castle Age, should be clicking up any second now.
Now, getting
and
that
there's
high
the
trade
high
house. And he's getting it very close to the TC. Really smart here, just ensuring that he has access to that deer constantly. Because, of course, the sheep does run out, but they run out a little bit slower if some of those villages are occupied with the deer spawning everywhere. Now, the fast castle coming out from MeomaikA himself. And that leaves us with the question of, is CsOH going to be able to land some defense or some counter damage against this? Because once those mounted samurai arrive, this feels pretty tough to shut down. Horse archers do not make the cut, especially not with that shield.
Yeah, I agree. And MeomaikA, to his credit, he's got a clear game plan, right? This is a very clear, premeditated game plan. Send two shinobi, pester him a little bit, immediately go with a floating gate behind this, and he's got, you can see right there, queued up, ready to go. The first Yorashiro is going to go straight into the stable, and he's going to be making those mounted samurai, which are incredibly effective units.
We can see those shinobis are doing work right now. The problem is, as we saw, the deer is also on a very exposed side here. So the food source spawning there on the outside of the high trade house, meaning that this is going to be very nice if you are a mounted samurai looking to do a little bit of damage now. But CsOH, he is getting enough wood. He's getting his first horse archer. And ladies and gentlemen, the shenanigans will soon begin.
Man, he got an extra kill. Those ninjas, the shinobi, got an extra villager kill. I don't know if you noticed that right in front of the right in front of that burned down hunting cabin. So he is up 2 plus a destroyed hunting cabin. Some good work done there by MeomaikA. Monastery immediately coming up for CsOH. It's gonna be a race for the relics. Gosh, it's always so fun to see those guys just zip around the map like that, trying to get some damage done. That horse archer trying to take them down. They're gonna have to get out of there pretty quick if they want to survive. But the mounted samurai coming out first. It's gonna be the Oma bannerman though.
And then the extra shinobi is going to make this a lot easier if they want to dive on top and take out a villager from that wood line or just under high trade house. So now 3 shinobis and 1 horse to rule them all. And actually, I don't know if you guys are noticing, but he's getting the horseman upgrade. Instead of making mounted samurais, the man is going for exactly what counters horse archers, and that is horsemen. So honestly, I definitely expected him to go for the mounted samurai, but he realizes I cannot just do that. With the 3, he still does not have the ability to take them down, but mounted. Ooh, another horse is going to be running in, charging down. Shinobis need to be careful. They are pretty expensive here, and he wants to make some sneaky plays by jumping on top of anything.
And MeomaikA making really good use of his micro abilities here. I gotta say, managing the shinobi like that and teleporting the way they do, it's not easy. It's not a really easy input to do, especially if you're not familiar with it. MeomaikA, though, making the most out of those. It feels like he's definitely practiced with these ninjas. I mean, just look at that. Picture perfect right on top of the scout. He's really got this down to a science.
Now, just overstepping a little bit could cost him dearly, and they are playing it quite safe. With the relics now being snatched up from both sides, we do see 2 warrior monks out for CSO. So those boys will be picking up what they need to get pretty soon, but MeomaikA, he is getting more horsemen, and he's getting +2 range defense. Ladies
so
and
good.
gents, you know what's about to happen, Sockerton. You know what is susceptible.
These horse archers are not going to know what hit them. I love this choice to instead, he doesn't need as much gold, so he's able to just, put those into horsemen instead. The Oroshido still getting value out of this instead of going for the samurai. It's not something I would have thought of myself, but it's such a brilliant idea from MeomaikA, and he's hiding them. He is stashing them away. I'm sure CSO probably thinks it's going to be mounted samurai. He probably has an inkling there might be horsemen. He's still, of course, searching for those shinobi. Once MeomaikA decides to show these horsemen off, he could do some seriously good damage, as he's got 9 of them right there.
And he's trying to be sneaky about this. He wants to ensure he gets a good angle. Now going straight for the relic. Oh, I was saying straight for the relic to try and shut that down, but no. He's going for the wood line. And that is a pretty good spot to try and get this. Right now, it's charging right in. Is he going to be able to react to CSO? Fast AF, boy. This man running for safety into the tower, but some of the villagers will get surrounded, and yet another one going down. And with another one being quite low, this does feel pretty scary, especially when you're up against those jumping shinobis.
Might have overstayed his welcome, though. Horseman going down a little bit there underneath the town center, but he has gotten some damage, getting some great hits on these horse archers, though. This is where the value is really coming into play. And more villagers caught out. That's another one down right there in front of the town center. Loses the bannerman, but overall, pretty good damage.
It does feel expensive, but in the end, that is a ton of idle time as well. MeomaikA behind this is getting more and more horsemen. He doesn't mind sacrificing a few of these.
And the horsemen are easy to produce, like they're not terribly, they're a bit heavy on the food side, but he can pop them out so quickly and replenish that in a heartbeat. And now we see he is adding a couple of mounted samurai as well. And this is the brilliance of what he's doing, is adding a couple of heavy units to kind of sustain these raids under the town center is so good. This combination is deadly.
And going for that dive. Now, I was saying the dive, but no, the high trade house needed to take that hit first. A villager getting charged on, but he will make it out alive this time. And again, idle time. This is not about just doing the damage. It's about the idle time that you can get out of this. He does need to be careful, though. He does not want to lose one of those mounted samurais. They are going to be important to this constant pressure he's putting up. 23 villagers idle, which is most of the economy, and nothing more to make horse archers with, as we see that wood income suffering. The thing is, MeomaikA is using a lot of the food that he has out here, and he also doesn't have that transition into farms naturally because of the shinobis. So a little bit of berry left here, a little bit of berry left there, but it's not going to be pressure forever. He's done the damage though. 6 villagers dead and CSO in shambles. He's got 3 relics though.
Yeah, MeomaikA's put one of those Yoroshido into one of the houses, getting a little bit of passive food, helping to make up for the lack of farms. That'll help him just a little bit. We can see, right there. Pretty good play. That's a smart idea. You don't see that too terribly often, but I like it here. He needs to be mindful, though. MeomaikA does need to be mindful about long-term food. He has done some good damage. I don't know if it's enough damage to end the game. He needs to be mindful. He does have a lot of mounted samurai here. This is a dangerous force he's recouped with. I like the idea of putting a tower up right in front, too. Gonna get around before those walls get up and get right on top of the horse archers. The villagers have nowhere to go. This is gonna be some more excellent damage by MeomaikA. Man, CSO really feeling like his feet are put to the coals right now.
CSO has to outperform significantly to be able to get back into this with another 3 total going down. The horse archer numbers are increasing, but just as they come out, they go down yet again. These units are expensive when you are on an idle economy. So usually horse archers, they feel so cheap and constant to make. But at the same time, these are not the cheap horse archers we usually face when we are the Rus player. No, I absolutely love to see that CSO is trying to just get as much food as possible into that TC, but at the same time, The villagers, again, running for their lives. And another raid, landing quite heavily under that TC. More idle time, more destruction. And MeomaikA takes down CsOH.
He goes the distance. The madman does it. MeomaikA takes down CsOH. The constant pressure pays off. The shinobi play. The shinobi play. The ninjas wheedling their way in there in the cover of night, taking down CsOH and the Roost. What a play. What a series. Man, congrats to MeomaikA, CsOH, both of them playing an incredible series. But in just under 15 minutes, MeomaikA with his shinobi play doing absolute carnage.
This was a show I think all of us enjoyed. So guys, hats off to MeomaikA. This man gave us the military value graph. A good ski slope right there. The opposite direction, of course, as we saw with these shinobis, just causing havoc for Mr. All CsOH for being greedy. Now, the funny thing is, even if he put the tower on the other side, he would have been able to have a lot more control over that area. But instead, putting it to the right side, he definitely risked things from there, because this is now just allowing him to also have control with that high trade house. He was able to charge in, do a little bit of damage every now and again. So it does feel quite difficult, but there's never a perfect answer in these high pressure situations.
Yeah, it really came down to the fact that MeomaikA did just enough damage. And I think the idle time is probably the unsung hero here. The amount of idle time, like he was getting some good villager kills. I think it was like 6, 7, 8, you know, a decent amount where that's starting to sting. But the idle time, the sheer amount of idle time really let him get ahead of this one. Because had CsOH been able to just kind of move somewhere else to the other side of his base and just gather resources anyways, it'd been fine. You don't mind losing 6 vills if you have to take the hit. But the idle time, the constant back and forth, and every time you send the villagers back out, in comes MeomaikA with even more once again. I think that is what really just ended up selling this game for MeomaikA, is just the consistent pressure.
That's usually what shuts Roost down. And this is also why we haven't seen Roost as much, because people have learned, hey, just keep that pressure up and we're good to go.